Oxford University just hired its first female chancellor, and she had some strong words for students who are protesting about things that they're sensitive about. Okay, so she's specifically talking about those who want to run certain speakers off the campus because they disagree with them, people who are in favor of safe spaces and things like that. Now, I think her statements are strong. I think her statements are important, so let me go ahead and read them to you. Addressing students for the first time in her new role, Richardson urged them to be open-minded and tolerant and to engage in a debate rather than censorship, alluding to the countless calls from students at Oxford and other universities across the UK to ban potentially offensive speakers and rename or remove historical monuments. Now, they have removed a plaque of someone by the name of Cecil Rhodes, who was a British colonial,
Rhodes, right.
British colonialist that they feel is not an accurate representation of their university or their values. There's also a monument or a statue that's dedicated to him, and the students want them to take that down as well. Elliot, what do you think about that? Do you?
Yeah, that was Cecil Rhodes, who was active in South Africa, which obviously has a long history with apartheid. I went to Oxford, and it's interesting. We had a speaker that came to our...
Oxford University just hired its first female... A local pastor in Nairobi, Kenya, has ordered women that go to his church to stop wearing undergarments when they go to church because he wants to make sure that they are receiving Jesus in the best possible way. So in his words, a local pastor has ordered all women who attend service at Lord's Propeller Redemption Church, it's a great name, to refrain from wearing undergarments while attending so they can, quote, more easily receive the Spirit of Jesus Christ.
Is that what they're receiving? Okay.
What is happening? Now, the ladies have listened. They are obeying his orders, which is absolutely ridiculous. Kind of curious that the men haven't been told to not wear their undergarments.
Interesting.
And why would Jesus want to, why would his Spirit want to enter them in that way?
Yeah, do they have to enter through orifices of the body, as Oral Roberts used to say?
Unbelievable.
I mean, can you imagine Jesus comes and he's like, oh, dude, you're wearing underwear. I can't come in. All right, I'll see you later. Okay, but what I love about this story is you think to yourself as a rational person, who would be monumentally stupid enough to think that that made sense? That Jesus would get blocked by, is your underwear made of Jesus kryptonite? Like he would block, and for guys it's okay. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. But they listened to him. They showed up with no panties and no bras.
You have to have a little bit of skepticism, but that's the thing. I mean, you've been brainwashed to the point where you feel that this person is communicating to God, to Jesus, and I understand that God is Jesus, right?
I think, yeah. Plus the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit. But anyway, look. Again, we always do the caveat because I feel like it's necessary. It's not a blanket statement about all religious people. Of course, not all pastors try to push this kind of stupid, ridiculous propaganda on the people that go to their churches. A lot of them are good people. They use it for, their idea of morality, and they want to do good to help the poor. You guys get the caveats. But then you get stories like this, and I feel like people need to go out in public and criticize them. I think religious people need to go out in public and criticize them because they're making your religion look ridiculous. You need to denounce them publicly.
But I will actually go a step further in this case because I think that this shows you the problems with religion itself, the core of the problem, which is that once you decide that you're not going to use reason, well then nothing is by definition unreasonable. Once you said to the guy, I'm going to listen to you unconditionally because it's a matter of faith, well, if he tells you to take your panties off for Jesus, you're going to say, okay, because I gave away my reason to you, so you tell me. Well, that's why every religious cult has had the guy in charge do outrageous things, usually sexual to the women, right? Sometimes to the dudes. And then sometimes they wind up killing everybody on board, yada, yada, and you've seen it 100 times before. Because once you escape the realm of logic, there are no bounds of reason anymore, literally, right? And will some people take advantage of that? Of course, that's human nature. Once you give that guy that kind of power, what's the first thing he's going to say? Turns out Jesus doesn't like your bra. Let me see your titties.
Jessica Henriquez wrote a great piece in Salon where she talks about how she took a purity pledge when she was a teenager, and then she actually waited until marriage to lose her virginity. Now, she got married really young. She was 20 years old, and she married her high school sweetheart. And before she got married, all they would really do is maybe some heavy petting, but they would kiss. And she said that she liked kissing him.
I'm just going to interrupt for one second there. I mean, it's such a funny thing among religious people, and I was like this when I was younger to some degree too. So I know how goofy it is, and I've been wrong about it too. Like heavy petting, like God is looking down on you. Oh no, it's okay. Rub up against one another, okay? But don't take the pants off, because then I'll get really pissed. Like, I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, forward.
Well, you know, we've talked about how ultra-religious girls will let guys in the back door, and like that's their like compromise, which is disastrous.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, again, I picture a deity looking down like, oh, you got me on that one. I forgot about that loophole. No, the good one, good one. No, you gotta let him go. You gotta let him go.
All right. So she ends up marrying her high school sweetheart, and you know she was really looking forward to the day. And then on the day of her wedding, she got really sick. She started vomiting, and it wasn't because she was, you know, excited or nervous about, you know, reading her vows or anything. It was because of the fact that she realized, oh my God, I've been with him for 3 years, but I barely know anything about him. So, you know, they have their wedding, and she has like family members that are like, you know, winking at her and like winking at him.
It's your big night. How bad is it when like his uncle's like, oh, grandma, like, oh, tonight's the night. Hey, take it easy, man.
Yeah.
Take it easy. I don't want to hear that from you.
I'd be super uncomfortable. And of course, part of the reason why she got married so young is because she took the purity pledge, and she's like, I can't wait anymore. Let's have sex, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, on their wedding night, she mentions how she gets into like this like negligee thing, and you know they're about to have sex, but she feels sick to her stomach. She doesn't want to do it, right? Like she doesn't feel like it's right. And they finally do have sex, and she didn't enjoy it. She says the following: 3 minutes later, when he finished, he appeared pleased with himself, and I was glad that it was out of the way.
Now, I don't like her, okay? And I'm a bad guy, but I don't. I mean, so first of all, like, you tease this guy for like 3 years. He put up with it when he shouldn't have, which later she's going to punish him for that. And then now that he finally gets to have sex, first of all, she tries to get out of it that night. Oh, for Christ's sake. Come on, man. And then second of all, oh, he's done 3 minutes later. Oh, you got him, okay? Like, what?
So I knew that
3 minutes, okay, like, so she's making fun of him in a sense, like, and I didn't get anything out of it. Well, maybe you should have said something.
I think that she wrote the article in the wrong way. And the reason why I say that is because like I emailed her and I wanted to get a sense of who she really is. Because the way she wrote the article, you're right, Jake, it makes it seem like she is putting him down needlessly. But in reality, you know, in my back and forth with her, she said, look, he wasn't inconsiderate and he wasn't the bad guy. But the reality was she was 20 years old and she was a virgin, right? So it seems like she gave up on their sex life from the very beginning. But the reality is, after they had bad sex for the first time, she didn't know what good sex was. She didn't know how to communicate about what she wanted because she hadn't explored sexually.
Well, look, I agree with her on that. I agree with her that, you know, remaining a virgin until you're married is a disastrous idea and is much more likely to lead to a quick divorce. So on the substance, I agree with her. But the more she writes, the less I had sympathy for her.
I can understand what you mean by that. But I actually can understand why she feels the way that she does. It's because you haven't explored anything when it comes to your sexuality, and you get married. And you know, she talks about how she was homeschooled from like 2nd to 9th grade, and that, you know, her family really pressured her into buying into this whole purity pledge. And it was peer pressure, which made her hold on to that pledge. And she said a lot of her friends didn't follow through with the pledge that they made, but she was kind of stubborn about it. She's like, no, I made this promise, I'm really gonna stick to it. And it ended up really hurting her marriage. So they were together for about 6 months, and then she couldn't take it anymore. They kept having sex. She didn't enjoy it. She didn't like it.
Let me read you some of that, because I'm about to drop it on this one. Okay, she says, then as if Jesus were punishing me for moving on, I got a urinary, meaning like from him to getting married, because she made about it Jesus. I got a urinary tract infection on the second day of our honeymoon. I sighed in relief when the doctor told me that I should not engage in any sexual activity until I had finished the antibiotics. Like, okay, like I feel like it's another thing to the husband, like, ha, sorry, now you're gonna have to wait longer. Oh yeah. All right, but you got him. You already got him to wait 3 years. What's your problem?
I don't know why you think that she's like trying to throw her ex-husband under the bus. That's not what this is really about. It was more about her feelings about their sex life. She didn't enjoy sex because she didn't know what sex was or what enjoyable sex was.
She said 7 days later, my wifely duties resumed, and almost every time our clothes came off, my mind seemed to check out. I soon noticed that during those few minute intervals of sex, again throws them under the bus, few minutes of interval of sex, my mind was focusing on something else, anything else. She went on to say this was not lovemaking, there was no bond, no sanctity, this was not amazing sex I was promised from the pulpit, this was a disappointment 3 to 4 times a week. And she goes on to say about, oh my God, like, it was like I was reading from a grocery list. She was just trying not to concentrate on the sex in any way, shape, or form.
Because she thought that there was something wrong with her. By the way, important fact that we missed at this point. He wasn't a virgin when they got married, right? Mm-hmm. He was already experienced. So she was under the impression that he knew what he was doing, but since she hadn't experienced it before, she thought she was broken, that there was something wrong with her, which is why she couldn't enjoy it. Another thing that she mentioned was the fact that before they got married, of course, like they're kissing and they're doing a little heavy petting because that's all they have, right? After they get married, he's been waiting so long to have sex with her that he just bypasses all of the foreplay, all of the kissing, all of the passion. And you know, when you don't have any affection, you just go right for the sex. Who the hell is going to enjoy that? Mm-hmm. So it's not like she's trying to say like, oh, everything was wrong with him. Her whole point of the piece was to say, look, saving it until marriage might work for some people, but for a lot of people, it's not a good idea because it's important to explore your sexuality, know what you like, prior to finding a partner.
I agree with that substance, but again, I come back to, and then she says afterwards, when she got out of the marriage, she all of a sudden, then she's like, oh, then I started having sex with pilots and guys I didn't know, and they didn't even know my second name, and it was awesome, right? Now, if that was by itself, I'd say, have at it, Hoss, that's terrific, okay? But it seemed to me that she's like, oh, I love the bad guys, love giving it to them on the first night. That guy who was really nice to me and listened to me and wouldn't have sex with me for 3 fucking years while I busted his balls every single night. Oh yeah, he got done in 3 minutes. Ha, he sucked. And I hated having sex with him. And I was just thinking about groceries and yada yada. And then of course, as soon as I got out of that marriage, boom! Where are you? Pilot, this, that. I'm open for business. So I felt bad for the guy.
Okay, I can understand why you feel bad for the guy, but it's just weird that you got that perception because when I was reading it, I didn't feel like she was putting him down at all, right? I got the sense that she made a horrible mistake. She was really inexperienced when it came to sex when she got married, and she made a horrible mistake because, you know, it caused a lot of pain and suffering within her relationship.
Drop it. All right, we go to the other justices. Court is in session. Justice Jackson, very important vote here. What's your thoughts? We'll do the usual TYT style. Is she guilty?
Of just being a bad, mean woman to her husband? Is that the basis?
Well, you're guilty. You know what I'm talking
about. I'm going with not guilty.
Okay, interesting. Why?
Because I think there's more to it. A lot of times, when there are the type of women that just kind of bash men or say, oh, he sucked at bed, especially if, say, he screws her over in the relationship and then she starts telling everybody what he did. Mm-hmm. Like, that's different thing.
She wrote a whole article about it. I mean, it's not her fake name, it's her real name, and people know who she was married to the first time.
Right, but I think as it seemed like the intention of it wasn't to say, oh, she didn't mention, I didn't read the article, but it didn't seem like she mentioned he was such a bad guy. He was emotionally abusive.
No, to be fair, she never says that, and she does defend him in some little ways, etc. And I don't think that's the intention of the article. And in fact, I agree with the intention of the article. Okay, but as I'm reading the article, I'm feeling sick to my stomach for this guy, and I feel like she played with him. She
Well,
played
see,
with
this
him
is the thing.
during the marriage.
Okay,
She
can
played
I-
with him
Anna,
during the
can I-
marriage.
I don't. How did she play with him? She took a purity pledge. He knew.
You want me to keep
Hold
it
on.
real?
No. Hold on.
No.
Just stop for a second, okay? You're acting like this guy is some sort of moron who can't make decisions for himself. He was in a relationship with her. She said, "Hey, I'm not going to have sex until I get married, and we're young. We're not going to get married anytime soon. So you have a decision to make." And he
Yeah.
decided to stay with her.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
So you
I
decide.
know. And that's the whole point of this. I want to look out for my brothers. Don't. If a woman says, "Oh, you know what? Just hang in there for 3 years while we do heavy and light petting and making out for 3 long years," because then at the end it'll be great. Bullshit. Okay, get the hell out of that relationship. Don't put up with that bullshit. What's she gonna do? She's eventually gonna leave you and then bang the first guy she sees. Okay, it's a terrible mistake. Don't make that mistake. Okay.
okay, I just think-
now that's keeping
okay,
it
then,
real.
I just
then
think
make
that-
that point from the beginning. Instead of making her seem like she's a horrible bitch, why don't you say, "Hey dudes, it's a bad idea to wait until marriage to have sex." That's something that we can both agree on. But instead, you're like, "Oh, she's a horrible person because she's
No,
pregnant."
but she
She's
played
not-
it for her own
she's-
ego. Oh, I'm with Jesus. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna be the last one who's a virgin, and I'm gonna make you suffer for 3 years, and then go, ha ha. I was just thinking of cucumbers and potatoes and and Kleenex while we were having sex, and I never got into it. I never tried, and then as soon as I dumped you and broke up with you and we had this whole expensive marriage and then wedding, etc. Then I gave it away immediately, and I don't have any problem with that. But like, why'd you fuck with a guy for
Yeah.
that long time? You did it for your ego.
It sounds like a personal problem.
That is fair. Okay, but nonetheless, we continue.
Okay, now the thing is, the argument, a lot of times these things seem like they're leaning towards this woman owed this guy so much. And if you're having a good sexual relationship, you kind of want each other to enjoy yourselves. And I feel like the conversation goes to, I can't believe she strung him along, he had blue balls. Maybe she had the women equivalent of blue balls, purple vagina. And so, like, you wanted to, everyone wants their thing. And then she finally marries this guy, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing in bed. And she's like, dude, I waited all this time for this minute and a half? So, I mean,
Oh man, this guy's so under our buttons.
if the guy is expecting much more, because by the way, women can be boring in bed too.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation. And if a woman's boring in bed, I'm like, oh God, what else could I be doing right now? Because sex isn't like, it's not life changing. It's not fucking crazy shit. Even when it's good, it's not like, oh my God, I've been building up all this time and I'm supposed to get it's like, we're humans, we can handle it. So if you wait for a while and then nothing works out and no one's good in bed and there's no chemistry, yeah, move on. You suck. Maybe a girl who can go for your minute and a half is good.
Right.
Maybe a guy who's wild and crazy and put in every hole goes
So
good for her.
that's the one thing we all agree on, including the author. That don't wait, don't do that. It's a bad idea. It's better to know whether you're a match or not. But Justice Frisch.
I mean, think about it. One last thing.
Okay.
Her other point about him not giving her anything, it's kind of his fault too. I just rushed past everything. You
Yeah,
gotta
but
warm
he
me
didn't want to
warm it up.
kiss her and be affectionate. I mean, come on. Like, is that really throwing him under the bus if that's the truth? Like, if he's just like, all right, I'm going to put it in. Like, let's get it in. You know what I mean?
All right, Tim Frisch.
I mean, everybody's first time and everybody's first relationship or even series of relationships is like a learning experience, I would say. And there are some people that choose to have their first learning experience marriage. And then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I think in this case, she came to like a harsh realization that it wasn't going to work out and she needed more experiences. But she didn't admit that it was a learning experience. She started assigning blame. Like, he was too short, or we weren't compatible, or we waited too long, or Jesus this, or grocery list that. So,
Guilty or not guilty?
guilty.
Yes, we're tied up. Commander of the Armies of the East happens to be in the court right now. Aaron Wysocki, normally in Pittsburgh, but at Rebel headquarters today. He will be the vote that breaks the tie. Go ahead. Deciding vote, Justice Wysocki.
I believe this is my first time ruling on a case in the court.
Yeah, that's true. All right, lead in. All right.
I'm going to say they're both guilty.
Oh, for Christ's sake, that doesn't break the tie.
So I don't know much about this case, but I do know that he was not a virgin and she was a virgin. So he's guilty because he owes her. Their first time is supposed to be something special. And especially if he's done it before, he should have knocked her socks off. She would have never wrote an article had he paid attention and done it the right way.
No, he would ask her like if she wanted something. And she's like, yeah, whatever, tomatoes, Mr. Clean,
where did
whatever.
it say that?
No, it did. Oh, he would ask me if I wanted it a little gentle or like this or whatever. And she's like, whatever, I'm already checked out. I'm thinking about that pilot I'm going to have sex with later.
First of all, if that was even mentioned, it was subtle, and he totally exaggerated that.
It was in the article.
And she's
Come on,
guilty.
Jake.
She just needs to relax and maybe smoke some weed or something and just relax because she's putting way too much pressure on that guy.
Yeah. And look, speak up. And look, the best case you have, look, it's a tie. Let the people decide, okay? I guess if it's a tie goes to not guilty, okay? Wow, that's a big relief to you, I'm sure. Okay, but look, and the best point you have, Anna, and in the email that she wrote you is, I was young. And so, like, I keep wanting to say as I read the article, why didn't you say something to the guy? At least give him a chance. Instead of checking out, say to him, hey, listen, I'd like this or I'd like to do that.
Because she doesn't know what she likes, Jake.
Well, then ask him and try. Instead of, oh, yeah, that was a dumb idea. I'm breaking up with you now and I'm going to go do other things. Like, give the kid a chance. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if it's personal. I don't know what it is, right? But it got me upset. And I understand she came from a good place in general, and she's trying to teach a lesson that's important, and she's right about the overall lesson. But look, man, it's a two-way street. So in some ways, Aaron is right? A lot of times I feel like women are like, oh, no, I'm dismissive, right? Okay, well then speak up. You can talk to him, right?
All right, let's move on to another story.
Okay, you're angry, but I'm angry too.
Now I'm getting fucking angry. And okay, seriously, I want to move on. Because look, let's take a break, seriously.
This is the first time it's ever happened. I'm actually angry too. Okay? And so not at you, Anna.
No, look, this is not feminist bullshit. This is not me being a feminazi. This is me giving someone credit for putting herself in a very vulnerable situation where she talks about the most personal and intimate details of her sex life. Okay? And was she wrong in not communicating? Sure, but at the same time, when you're 20 years old and you're a virgin and you've rushed into a marriage and you've been brainwashed by religion your entire life, I mean, can you really, really blame her for not knowing what to do or how to handle it? She says that she felt like she was broken because he wasn't a virgin. He knew what he was doing, but she had no idea. So she's like, a 28-year-old man in Florida is facing murder charges after he tricked his girlfriend into taking the abortion pill when she was 6 weeks pregnant. This is such an unbelievable story. She got pregnant. She was happy about it. She wanted to have the child, but he did not, and he was adamant about it. So at one point, she wasn't feeling well. She decided to go to the doctor, and it turns out that his father is a fertility doctor. So she goes over there, and he says, oh, it turns out you have a bacterial infection. I'm going to write you a prescription for amoxicillin. So he does. But unfortunately, the woman did not know that her boyfriend changed the label on the prescription bottle and replaced the pills with abortion pills. So she took the pills thinking that it was amoxicillin, and then she noticed that she was bleeding. She goes to the doctor, and she finds out, oh my God, I was tricked into taking the abortion pill.
They found remnants of the drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's obviously, it's horrific. It's a massive abuse of trust. Like, I mean, there's no better way to, I guess, ruin the intimate connection you have with another person than to make that sort of decision for someone. And the thing is, so we're going to get into the whole, like, the possibility that he's going to be charged with murder.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, that gets into a political minefield right there. But he's a horrible guy. I mean, I think this is worse than so many other crimes that are much more common. And I hope that he is brought to justice in regard to that.
Absolutely. His name is John Andrew Weldon. There's absolutely no question that he should face prosecution, and he's facing federal charges. But, you know, when it comes to the question of murder, I'm a little, I don't know, indecisive on that, because there is a law. It's referred to as the Protection of Unborn Children Act, and it states that if someone intentionally harms a woman in order to cause her to have an abortion, then he or she can be charged with murder, right? But at the same time, it's a fetus that's 6 weeks old. If we don't have personhood laws stating that a fetus is a human life, an independent human life with constitutional rights, then how come we have this weird double standard here? And don't
That's
please.
the purpose of it, though.
Yeah.
Is to try to have a first step at a personhood law.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. But I think there's also this issue. Let's say that a woman is murdered and we find out that she had a fetus inside of her. Should that be a double murder charge? And I think that there are examples of people being charged with double murder. The issue here, I think, is that it's a women's right to choose issue.
Right.
And if the woman has chosen that she wants to have that child, taking that choice away from her is different than a woman choosing not to have a child and, you know, aborting that fetus intentionally. Maybe personhood, I don't know. I mean, it does open up a huge can of worms, but I wonder if personhood could be linked to the woman's choice of whether or not she identifies that fetus as being a potential child or as being an unwanted pregnancy.
I think that this is a great argument for conservatives who want to make abortion illegal, because they can use this as an example. Like,
What's
wait,
that first step
why do we have this
Yeah.
double standard in our law system? Like, why is it that in this particular case you treat the fetus as a human life, but when it comes to the right to choose, you don't care? So a woman can choose to do it, and it's okay. But if someone, and by the way,
I see it as a
I'm not
pro-choice
saying-
issue, though, because when we talk about choice, we always talk about the choice to abort. But when we say choice, we're actually talking about two options for a woman.
I know,
we
but
are
you're
pro-choice,
treating
meaning
it-
that we want to be able to choose to have life also.
But in one case, you're treating that fetus as life. In another case, you're treating it as, oh, well, it's not viable outside the womb, so a woman can choose to abort it. Do you see what I'm
I
saying?
think that you could
Yeah, of course.
accomplish this same goal without this dangerous, potentially slippery slope sort of argument towards personhood.
Yeah.
Like Kara makes a great point. It's about consent. It's about taking away her free will. It's just like the same. Like, this is probably going to be a dangerous
No,
metaphor.
by the way,
but-
hold on. So let me clarify something. I'm not saying like he should like let him go. Of course,
I
like he
get that, I
should
get
face
that.
federal charges.
But I'm
The
saying-
Should they be
question
murder
is,
charges?
should they be murder charges?
And I'm saying that they shouldn't be. It should be something else. I don't know what it
I
is.
see.
Maybe it's something totally new. But it's like the difference between consensual sex and rape. The
Yeah.
crime isn't sex necessarily, it's the taking away of the woman's free will.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to criminalize sex to get rid of rape, and I don't think you need to make the fetus a human being to criminalize forced abortions.
Right.
The
That's what
issue
I'm
is
saying.
just, yeah, what is the punishment? If we can call it something specific about taking away a woman's right to choose, you know, if you don't want to call it murder, you call it something else. And so long as the punishment, it has equivalency there, I think, so long as people feel that it's a fair punishment.
Going by what you were saying right there, I think that these sorts of bills are probably being sponsored by conservatives because they see it, I would assume, as a medium-term road towards a personhood amendment or something like that.
And I think they have a strong case if there are laws like this already on the
If
books.
it's like that, if it's worded like that. But if we do it the way Kara and I have been talking about, you could very well see Democrats sponsoring bills that are not enshrining the personhood of the baby, but enshrining the right of a woman to choose.
Yes.
Make the crime forced abortion, and that actually leads to perhaps a stronger case for a woman's right to choose rather than the reverse.
Again, I think that's such an important point to make. I know you want to move on, but just like what you were saying, when I say that I am pro-choice, I'm talking about pro-choice. I'm not talking about pro-abortion. People don't want to have abortions. I have never met one person who's had to suffer through that who said, what a great abortion I just had. I was so happy to have that abortion. People don't want to have to make that choice, but they want the choice available if they need it. But we're also talking about protecting a woman's right to have a baby if she wants to have a baby.
Absolutely.
Also, does
Caitlin Hunt was offered a plea deal, if you guys can remember.
YouTube, can you finally realize that autoplay is a
She's
thing?
the 18-year-old that was having a relationship with a 15-year-old girl from her high school. They were on the same athletics team. And the 15-year-old's parents decided to prosecute her as a result of the relationship. Of course, since she's 18, she can be charged with lewd and lascivious conduct with someone between the ages of 12 and 16. So anyway, she was offered a plea deal by state prosecutors, and under the plea deal, she would get 2 years of house arrest, she would get probation, and she would also be charged, if she pled guilty, of course, to child abuse as opposed to, you know, having sex with a minor. She decided to reject that plea deal.
Drums.
Yes.
Okay, so we wanted her to reject it. We wanted her to fight it all the way, but we're not in her family. And if you're in her family, you got to be incredibly nervous, man. She could get 15 years. That's why JR was like, take the deal. You never know. The government's crazy.
It's really a lose-lose situation, because if she had taken the plea deal, it would have very negative implications for her career, because you are convicted of child abuse, and as a result, you cannot have certain jobs. So it would destroy her future. Plus, at 18, to spend 2 years under house arrest would be disastrous, okay? Because at 18, you should be going to college, you should be, you know, establishing yourself, and it's impossible to do it if you're under house arrest. And by the way, house arrest for doing nothing wrong. I mean, look, you can have an argument about what the age of consent should be, you know, what the Romeo and Juliet law should be. There are certain Romeo and Juliet laws that allow like a 4-year difference in age, so people who are 18 don't get prosecuted for being in a relationship with someone younger than them. But the reason why people are under house arrest, or the reason why people are sent to prison, is because they're a threat to society. In this case, can we just show our picture again? All right. 18-year-old Caitlin Hunt, not a threat to society. There's no reason why she should spend any time in jail or 2 years under house arrest.
Yes, Anna, but what if she were to seduce your daughter? Okay, and that's in reality, of course, what this is about. They think she's a threat, mainly because the parents of her girlfriend didn't like her. Very likely because she was lesbian, right?
Yeah.
And had started going out with her daughter. They might want to look inward, but that's a whole different story. Now, look, here's the reality. Gennaro Wilson was a 17-year-old in Atlanta, or near Atlanta, and he was 17 years old, had sex with a 15-year-old, oral sex, and he got convicted for 10 years, wound up spending 2 years in prison, okay? And screwed up his life in a big, big way. Was he absolutely right that he should not have been convicted? Of course. He also wouldn't take the plea deal, right? And he didn't want to admit to anything that he thought he didn't do, right? And I love him for it, and we supported him all the way. He's finally out of prison now. He got released around 2009, I believe, after the Supreme Court said his punishment was cruel and unusual. But he spent 2 long years in prison, right? Now, in this case, Caitlin is 100% right. 18 and 14-year-olds, or I was going to say there's 14 and 15. They keep changing, right?
It's really, really frustrating because there are so many conflicting reports, right? But let's report it as if it's the worst case scenario, and she started dating the 15-year-old when she had already turned 18, right? Because they seem to have started dating like right before she turned 18, and as soon as she turned 18, the parents allegedly went to authorities right then and there.
The bottom line is she was a senior on the basketball team, and her girlfriend was a freshman on the basketball team.
Yeah, there's a 3 years difference. 3-year difference, and that's pretty much it. Let's keep it real.
And so if she committed this so-called crime, and the law is against her, she could easily lose, right? And so that's why I'm really worried about it, even though we think it's insane that a senior dating a freshman in high school gets you a criminal sentence, right? But in the case of Gennaro Wilson, when he did that, despite the fact that they changed the law after that case because of how egregious it was, it did not apply to him because they said we changed the law after you got convicted.
Right.
So if she fights and she gets the law changed so that it's more reasonable, she might serve a lot of time in prison anyway. So as someone who's in her family, you got to be so worried about that. On the other hand, she can't even spend time with her sister if she gets convicted of child abuse.
Exactly.
It's insanity, right?
I feel torn on it. I don't feel torn on it. I didn't think that she should take the plea deal. I'm glad that she didn't take the plea deal. But at the same time, of course, I'm tremendously nervous for her. This is Florida. You know, Florida's pretty conservative. So who knows what these state prosecutors are going to do. It seems like they're really out to get her. Anonymous is getting involved in this. And that also makes me a little worried because it's all hunky-dory when Anonymous goes after bullies, and I love it, and I love what Anonymous is doing in this particular case. But I'm very curious to see how it plays out when Anonymous goes against the law, when Anonymous is fighting state prosecutors, because I feel like these state prosecutors are so motivated to go after Caitlin Hunt that having Anonymous push for something is actually going to put them over the edge, and they're going to push harder. I don't know. That's my take on it.
On the other hand, the prosecutors seem frustrated she didn't take the deal. Like, prosecutors are used to breaking people's backs, being like, aha, you know what, we got so much more money than you. Unless, of course, it's a banker, and the banker has more money, and the prosecutor's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, right?
Now, so in this case, they're like, what the hell, man? Were we not merciful? We were going to convict her, but of a lesser charge. And the prosecutor seemed like he was really upset she didn't take the deal. She's like, well, all right, we're going to trial. But I also got the sense from that quote that they were a little worried about going to trial, that it's a waste of taxpayer money, and you're going to go through this whole long process to what? Take that dangerous girl off the streets, as you were alluding to in the beginning? It's ridiculous, right? And they don't have a great case anyway, and the jury might not convict. So there might come a day where they offer a different plea deal.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that that does happen, you know, and hopefully it'll be a little more appealing than what they originally offered. I don't want to see her go through, you know, a court case. It's going to be disastrous. I get really nervous about the fact that it's in Florida.
Yeah, so what could happen is they could reduce it to what is, in essence, the equivalent of a traffic ticket,
Yeah.
so less than a misdemeanor, and they could say, all right, and 500 hours of community service.
Yeah.
She'd be like, all right, I'm a good person anyway, fine, I don't mind doing community service.
Ugh,
And that's
I
the
know.
deal that they could make, and I hope they do make. Now, what should be the law, I think that if you're under 16, somebody can't have sex with you if they're 5 years older than you. Okay? I think anybody over the age of 16 should be allowed to have sex. A lot of people would disagree. They think that a lot of people think, and a lot of states think, it should be 18. I think 16 is 3 years past puberty. You can't stop 16-year-olds from having sex anyway. Making it criminal doesn't necessarily help the situation. At least 3 years past puberty. And if you're under 16, like a 15-year-old, but you're dating an 18-year-old who's a senior in your high school, that's not criminal, that's insane.
So let me give you a scenario. If the age of consent were lowered to 16 and there's a 16-year-old girl dating a 30-year-old guy, that wouldn't make you uncomfortable?
So that the age of consent is 16,
Yes.
she is 16.
Yeah.
Whether I'm uncomfortable or not is besides the point.
Right.
Right?
So you think that it's okay, though?
Yes.
You would be comfortable making that change to the law and seeing a 16-year-old girl dating a
Once,
30-year-old man?
whatever the age of consent is, she could date an 84-year-old.
Jesus.
Okay?
I
And
don't know why she'd want to, but okay.
No, I know. And so that's, a lot of people have a gut reaction to that, like, whoa, no, 16's too young. That's fair. We're all guessing as to what we think is the appropriate age, but I don't think so. I think 16's, like, my God, we'd make kings out of 12-year-olds in the past.
I know, but that was the past, and we'd had some disastrous times in the past. But, I mean, I just think of myself as a 16-year-old girl, and I was mature for my age at 16, and I was an idiot. Like, I made
I know,
really,
but were
really
you that
bad
much
choices.
smarter at 18?
Yeah, I think I was. I was smart enough to dump the loser I was dating, so yeah, definitely.
Okay, and did the law make a difference in what you did or didn't do?
No. It
Okay.
did not.
Recently, there was a shocking case involving a young girl who, through text messaging, encouraged her boyfriend of 2 years to commit suicide. Unfortunately, the 18-year-old man did commit suicide, and as a result, Michelle Carter, the girlfriend who was encouraging him and also instructing him on how to commit suicide, had to stand trial. Now, the case is novel, and the outcome is also unprecedented. She has been convicted of involuntary manslaughter. She faces 10 years in prison and will be sentenced sometime in August. Now, to give you some details on this story and how it all came about, Conrad Roy was found dead in the cab of his pickup truck in the parking lot of a Kmart on July 13th of 2014 with a tube from a generator pumping in carbon monoxide. Up to the moment that he passed out from the toxic fumes, Then 17-year-old Carter was on the telephone with him. She later informed friends. When he had doubts and climbed out of the truck, she ordered him back in. All right, I have more details. Let me give you a few more examples of how she encouraged him, and then I want you guys to jump in. She can hear him coughing. She can hear the loud noise of the motor. It constituted wanton and reckless conduct by Miss Carter, creating a situation where there is a high degree of likelihood that substantial harm would result to Mr. Roy. That's according to Lawrence Moniz, who was the judge in this case. And by the way, this was not a jury trial. The defense believed that it would be more fair if the judge made the ruling on his own. And, you know, in this case, of course, she gets convicted, and we'll see how long her sentence will be. The judge also says, where one's action creates a life-threatening risk to another, there is a duty to take responsible steps to alleviate the risk. Also in her texts leading to his death, Carter belittled her boyfriend for failing to make good on previous threats to commit suicide and made him promise that he would follow through. She sent him research on different methods, including hanging and jumping off a high building. She finally settled on carbon monoxide poisoning. Carter advised Roy to do it away from home so that nobody could interrupt and stop his death.
She sounds great. Sounds like a catch. You know, my initial reaction to this was that this is crazy, that she would be, you know, he did it. It's suicide. There's no manslaughter involved in a suicide. I still might feel that way, because it's tough. But that said, her behavior is sort of inhuman, although I suspect in her head she thought she was helping, right? Maybe. Best case scenario.
So she also suffered from psychological issues. She had an eating disorder, and she also suffered from, you know, psychological issues, which I don't want to comment on because I'm not a mental health professional and I don't know the details. But, you know, it's interesting because it didn't start off with her encouraging him to commit suicide. In the beginning, she seemed to discourage him. And then later on, she encouraged him, but did so very aggressively, right? Taunting him or mocking him for not following through, for failing to do so. He had attempted to commit suicide a couple times previously. You know, here's another example of something that she messaged him. And you can't break a promise and just go in a quiet parking lot or something. When Roy wrote that he didn't want to hurt his parents, Carter reassured him, I think your parents know you're in a really bad place. I'm not saying they want you to do it, but I honestly feel like they can accept it. If you're incredibly depressed and you hear someone that you're with say, I think your parents will get over it or accept it, I don't know. I don't know what the right commentary is on this story. It's just a really difficult thing to comment on.
Well, so I'll just say this. It's very hard to decipher between this being a severe case of mental illness or the mean girl illness, because we do have issues with mean girls, and we see it more and more. They tend to look alike in the media. But what I will say this is that one thing is we got to stop ignoring mental illness in this country. We really have to stop thinking that we can just fix it at home, that we can talk people out of their mental illnesses. Some people really need medication, because from what I read, they were going to commit suicide together, like a Romeo Juliet type thing, and then she backed out of it, and then she encouraged him. And it just seems like more and more we keep hearing stories of situations that sound completely hard to understand when you're normal. But I just think that I'm not making excuses for her. I do feel some kind of way about you being accountable for your own suicide, and it's, you know, what if you walk around and other people tell you, are you going to be subject to what other people say? And if that's the case, are we going to go around prosecuting everybody who says something that could lead someone who's mentally ill to their own suicide? But I do think we just have to really deal with the reality of mental illness. And she sounds like no matter what's wrong with her, she needs to be put away somewhere, because she just doesn't sound like she's normal. Like, or she's just mad evil, and that's not good either.
Well, first of all, it's strange. She didn't testify, which I think is a mistake, because I get it that you might not want to testify with a jury, but once you've given up the jury trial, you've got a judge, and the judge knows how to interpret your testimony. And I would have made my case that of what they ended up having, this celebrity psychiatrist, Peter Bregan, who testified in her behalf. But she's not thinking she's doing something criminal. She found a way to help her boyfriend. He wants to die. He wants to go to heaven. She'll help him just the way she wants it. But again, she's not evil, but she thought she was helping. So even though, the more I read about it and the more I think about it, the less I feel like this girl ought to be in prison. Like, I get it, and it's an interesting moment that we've come to in the world of texting and social media where, you can be, as they ruled, she was 100 miles away or an hour away, but virtually present because of the texting. It's a weird concept and a weird sort of new way to interpret the law. This guy killed himself. Putting her in prison for 20 years is not, does not strike me as accomplishing much. I find it interesting and just worth noting that the same week that Michelle Carter is found guilty in Massachusetts of the texting suicide, that Geronimo Yanez was acquitted of killing Philando Castillo.
Who actually literally shot and killed someone.
Literally shot him and admits it, but it just, it shows you the totally different standard of how we've written the law, to where if as soon as a police officer says, I feel threatened, then even though, God bless the prosecutor for bringing the Philando Castillo case, because most don't even get to trial, and they brought a case, they attempted to put the cop away. But it is nearly impossible, and this guy killed her. Everybody knows the facts, or accepted he killed himself. She's an hour away, but she didn't text him to stop and prompted him along and pushed him along, and that somehow that's enough.
Didn't alert. I'm nervous about the fact that you can be virtually present somewhere and that could have some legal consequences.
Yeah, consequences.
Because it was like conspiracy laws when they came along. You were thinking about doing something, and a lot of people went to jail for being in a room with someone. Like, it makes me a little bit nervous. But I do agree with you. I wasn't here earlier when you guys covered that Philando Castillo, and I know that a lot of people are very upset, and I'm one of them as the mother of a young black male, which you guys hear over and over again, because every time he leaves the house, I freak out. But
commercial. There's a brain teaser on the back. Professor Prolone's Picto Puzzle. That's a tough one. Got it. Just you. Maybe I can't concentrate because of all your cooties. It's called lice, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Elisa, did you get that brain teaser yet? For your information, none of your business. You look tired.
Very nice, Janie. Good use of pipe cleaners, Becky. Don't open it, Ralph. I'll just give you a C-.
Yay!
Not finished, Lisa?
I'm finished.
Well, I should write this down. More coming.
I'm looking for something in an after-dinner burrito.
You'll have it in 45 seconds, sir. Look at this mess. Where is that elderly old man? Old man! Old man! Ah!
Now you're sweating, honey.
Old man! Old man! Ah! 55 seconds, sir. Look at this mess. Where is that elderly old man? Old man! Old man! Ah!
Now you're swinging, honey. Your dad used to be smart as a monkey. Then his mind stuck. Your brother's sharp. But it doesn't mean you can't live a long and pointless.
What is... what is a... Well... The best part was when the buildings fell down.
Before
I was reluctant to make this video, but what this user has done is terrible. It's incredibly toxic, and I don't think I can keep my mouth shut about this for much longer. Today we're talking about the one and only Sassy Slinky. She's a renter/animator with over 7... 1K subscribers, but her fans are unaware of the shit she's done in the past few months. Emotionally manipulating people, being toxic in multiple relationships, forging screenshots. Sassy Slinky's actions are disgusting, and I hope all the evidence I provide will be enough to prove that Sassy is someone you should be careful around. In February of 2017, Sassy Slinky got in a relationship with Mashimus. Their relationship tumbled downhill fast. Why? It was because of Sassy repeatedly threatening to harm, or worse, kill herself if Mashi leaves her. You shouldn't emotionally manipulate your partner like that. In October, they finally broke up. Unfortunately, Mashimus isn't the only person she did this to. I recently found out that Sassy has done the exact same shit to Skeptical, who is another person she used to date. And oh boy, according to the date on these screenshots, Sassy was dating him while she was dating Mr. Ryolu. Sassy, not wanting to make Skeptical mad, lied about being in a forced relationship with Ryolu. It's honestly sad how these people have done so much to make Sassy happy, but she's still willing to harm them. Sassy, what can you learn from this? Maybe you should stop dating people until you're mature enough to, well, not cheat on them and to not emotionally manipulate them to stay with you. But enough about relationships. Remember when I said that Sassy fake screenshots? Let me explain. In December, Mashi made a DeviantArt account called Down with Mashi to play around and troll some people. Sassy Slinky found the account and immediately noticed that the owner was Mashimus. Then something odd happened. It all started when Sassy posted a status update about her ex, Mashi, stalking her. I was quite concerned about this, so I decided to question her. Apparently, a Down with Mashi YouTube account was leaving threatening comments on her channel. I'll let my friend Oakley explain the rest of the situation. Take it away, Oakley.
The account had my icon and an email with Mashi's full name in it. So me, Mashi, and Gummy decided to investigate, and we found multiple errors in the evidence Sassy provided. Here's what we noticed. Take a look at this. Pretty convincing at first, right? Well, the top comment gives it away. See, unlike an ordinary YouTube comment, it's missing quotation marks, and it doesn't say Down with Mashi commented. She said it was because they said more before Mashi is mine, but that would mean that the rest of the text was above the icon, and that wouldn't look right compared to the other comments. When we finally got Sassy to send a link to the channel, the link brought us to a channel that doesn't exist. She said that the channel got taken down, but the channel she linked never existed. When a channel gets taken down, the channel would say something like this. Were the screenshots edited? Possibly.
Honestly, the whole situation was a mess, and Sassy was literally threatening to call the cops. But you know, thanks Sassy for being completely immature and trying to frame Mashimus with fake screenshots. And not even a week later, my friend Quince found out that Sassy made a fake screenshot of her too. But what I'm confused about is, Sassy and Quince were both friends before it happened, so I wonder why Sassy did it. And even though Quince was the one being framed, Sassy started to victimize herself.
I have one more thing to talk about, and that is Sassy's videos. Honestly, her videos are biased and unnecessary. For example, her latest video. Honestly, Endergirl1212 should have accepted the fact that many YouTubers get obsessive fangirls like this and block the user. Not a problem, right? You even left a comment telling your fans to block Kitty when Kitty's actions weren't affecting anyone except Ender. Why do they need to block them when Ender herself doesn't? Hell, you weren't even involved. Actually, someone did leave a comment on her video saying Ender could have just blocked her and this would have never happened. The next day, we checked the comment section, but I couldn't see the comment. I tried again on another account, and I tried to find it a few days later, but I still couldn't see it, so Sassy could have deleted the comment. They weren't harassing anyone, they weren't spamming, they were only sharing their opinion, but their comment got taken down anyways. Sassy, I hope you learn from your mistakes. You probably won't though. Do everyone a big favor and stop what you're doing. Please grow the hell up.
Sassy, I am shocked at how toxic you are. You are willing to harm and lie about people who have done nothing to you. You're not the sweet little angel everyone thought you were. I don't think you deserve all the support you get. I don't think you even deserve to call yourself a rancher. And to everyone watching this video, please be careful of her. Because hey, someone who did absolutely nothing to provoke Sassy still got framed. Anyways, I think we're done here. Thank you so much for watching, and special thanks to Awkward Oak for joining me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe and goodbye.
Hi, I'm here to give everyone a warning about a user. If any of you get messaged by him, block or ignore him. Chaotic Blue, or Toxikai, or whatever, he goes by many different names nowadays. I'm sure if you're in the ranting community or animation meme community, you've heard of him. He's Birdie's ex-boyfriend. As you know, he forced ERPs onto people in the past. He claims he changed, but we were stupid enough to believe it. A person who did something sexual to someone without their consent should not be trusted, even though they say they've changed or something. So, I just want to talk about the times he tried to be friendly with me. After our whole conversation, it makes me feel pretty weird, like he tried to lure me into a trap or something by being nice. I don't know, it really felt like grooming. So, our first interaction, he made me an icon, and that was nice of him, and at the time I actually didn't know who he was. Then later, we just had like a normal conversation. At this time, someone told me who he was, and so I felt on edge the whole time he was talking to me, but people said he changed, so I tried to give him a chance. Then, out of the blue, he says this: I kinda like you. How does one take this? Do you take this in a I like you in a friend way, or I like you in a more than a friend way? I'd say the second option. When you tell someone you like them as a friend, you don't act this awkward. Also, he couldn't have said he likes me as a friend. We just started talking when he said this. It made me feel extremely uncomfortable. I could just tell he was trying to ERP with me or something. I had a really bad feeling. I said, you don't even know me. And he said, but it's a little hard to explain. I can't explain my own feelings very well. I didn't mean to come off as, well, you know, awkwardly sudden or mistaken. Sure, buddy. Whatever you say. Then he tried to change subject, but I still had like a really bad feeling. So I was like, what do you even mean, dude? Like, what was that? Then he gave me this BS. Just look. It's just ew. I mean, I don't know. Best friends? Even when I try to explain that, I can't help but feel awkward. Then he's like, but I want to try to get to know you. Yeah, so you can start to ERP with me? Fucking dunce. Then after that, he just gave me this like extremely awkward explanation of who he is. He tried to introduce himself to me, but it looked more like a resume more than anything else. Then he would message me every time I woke up, but I think he realized I'm extremely not interested in talking to him. So I guess he was like, fuck, gotta find someone else. So basically, fuck you, Chaotic Blue. Just fuck you. I feel like this was grooming, knowing his past with people, and I'm so glad that he saw my complete disinterest. At first, I just kept talking to him just to see what would happen, but I actually felt really, like, uncomfortable the whole time. Anyways, now I'm going to show you Zora Tail's experience with Chaotic Cuck. Keep in mind, this stuff happened at the same time he talked to me. Alright, so, right after he and Birdie broke up, he told Zora that he really loves her and that he loved her before he and Birdie got together. She said she really didn't feel the same way. He started being cringy as fuck, using the Uganda Knuckles memes, and he started doing hugging and cuddling roleplays. But she didn't say she was uncomfortable because she didn't want to be mean, and because she just wanted to see how far he'd go. Side note, if someone is making you uncomfortable, please tell them. Don't hold yourself back just because you're afraid. After he did an NSFW roleplay with her, Birdie told him that he made Zora uncomfortable. After she rejected him, he went ape shit and said this. He started threatening Zora, telling Kuma to break up with Digby and planning to raid Birdie's server, and started talking shit about people. If you want to look at all of these screenshots for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description. So yeah, either he hits on popular people like Kuma, Birdie, Zora, and me for fame, or to show people that he in fact hasn't changed. It's disgusting, and I hope none of you have the displeasure of encountering him. He changes his name on Discord constantly though, so just in case you might be suspicious, here's his Discord tag. I don't really care if it's mean of me to show it. Nobody deserves to be groomed like this. I hope y'all have a good day. Remember that if someone had a reputation of doing stuff like this, don't trust them. People like this do not change. I'll see you all in the next video. Hey everyone, today I'm going to be bringing you some different content, and I'm sorry if you hear any noises of cars in the background. I'm not where I usually record. So for the longest time, I've been following the story that Adam Ellis has been writing on Twitter. If you aren't up to date, I'll leave links to Rainbot's videos reading out the story in the description. I really recommend that you go check it out. It's such a good story. The story of Dear David is one that enveloped me so much, I actually believed it 100%. I do believe in ghosts and spirits and the paranormal, but I can always tell when a story is just an ARG. But this one was so good, so original, that I believed it was real until his most recent piece of evidence that ruined the whole immersion for me. Today, I'm going to be talking about why this story was so compelling and why its credibility and immersion ended. So let's start off by talking about why I think this ARG became so popular and believable. Most of the ARGs that I've seen are obviously not real. It's usually creepy videos that are uploaded to YouTube that have secret codes and things you have to solve and things like that. And sure, those can be cool for a bit, but the real element that it's missing is relatability. When you see a video of a weird ARG on the internet with a ton of editing, you can be creeped out, but you aren't truly enveloped in the story. It doesn't have a true impact on you, and you cannot see yourself inside the character's shoes. With the Dear David story, it's different. Adam Ellis is a well-known person, a human just like you and me, and he uses Twitter as a platform to write. We acknowledge Twitter as a place where you get to see people's lives, where you get to follow what they do and stuff like that. It's the most human social media platform, basically. And the story takes place in a house, aka a safe space that has been invaded by something that's on a completely different space of existence and can cause harm, and that's scary. And since every element used are very human things that seem familiar to us, we are able to identify ourselves with it. The way he starts off with the story is great. He experienced sleep paralysis, something that most humans have had, and for most, it's terrifying, so he's using the element of relatability. Sleep paralysis and dreams are also associated to be messages from spirits and from the astral plane, so that also adds a sense of mystery. He illustrates the figure that's tormenting him, giving the illusion that what he saw was so real that he could even reproduce it. The rest of the updates are on small things that happen, but they are still mysterious elements. His cat's acting weird, things falling off shelves, hearing noises, classical scary things that create any horror story. In the story, whenever he tries to get an escape by going somewhere else, like even a completely different city, it seems to be that David still follows him. That gives us a lot of tension. The evidence he uses can be easily fabricated by yourself 100%, like this Polaroid photo. This picture taken from the inside of his peephole, the weird resemblance of this statue that he saw to David, could have been it's an ARG after all. But the thing is, as I said before, most ARGs are so obviously fake. But this one has so many extremely relatable and realistic elements. The tension created by those makes us be on alert. We go into fight or flight mode and our senses are heightened. So any little thing that could lead to the danger, in this case David, is basically instantly inhaled into our brain, and our brain uses it to make us even more scared. But since the things happening aren't happening to us, instead of giving into our sense of danger, we keep reading. And the more we read, the more wrapped into the story we become. And when this all started happening, it was super unexpected. Unlike most ARGs that revolve around their channel or Twitter account on creepy things happening instantly, that's how they start off, you know? So that is why, in my opinion, the Dear David story was so good. It used all of the right elements at the right time. But now I want to address the things that completely ruined my immersion, and why I think it's something that could have been avoided. This tweet right here, submitted January 17th. In the story, apparently he uploaded a normal picture on his Instagram stories, and later he received a ton of DMs about the picture, and apparently when he went back to check, it looked like this. Oh my god, this threw me off so much. Like, is this Five Nights at Freddy's? Is this Five Nights at Freddy's? This is something nobody should do when trying to make a believable ARG. Don't make this photoshopped FNAF ass looking stuff. I'm 100% sure nobody has ever seen a real, I'm talking real, glitched picture that looks like this. And don't add super fake, freaking obviously digital things like this. It triggers me so much. Let me tell you about why this whole scenario of him suddenly finding this weird picture could have and should have been completely avoided. Digital elements in any horror scenario ruin the horror effect. Why? Well, horror scares us because the stories revolve around things that we consider safe. Annabelle revolves around a doll, something that we consider to be our childhood friend. It revolves around a clown. something that's supposed to make us happy. The Exorcist has that scary bathroom scene. Bathrooms are like the ultimate privacy space. But let's take a movie that's centered around something digital being invaded by a demon or a ghost. Like Unfriended. Wah, wah. Unfriended is the #1 worst horror movie I've seen. Nothing about it scared me. It didn't make an impact. Because if something scary is happening to you on the literal internet, just walk away or turn off the screen. I don't know. And humans don't have an emotional attachment like they do to a doll or a clown, and it's not a safe space like a bathroom is. We know it's a danger. So when you see this, all of the tension creating from the things that are familiar to you is gone. Because digital things just don't have an impact. When you leave the movie theaters after watching Annabelle or something, and you go home to see maybe one of your dolls or plushies, it may scare you. Because that's the sort of impact a horror movie is supposed to have on you. It's supposed to scare you even after you've seen the movie. Also, we're already familiar with the ARGs that contain heavily edited pictures and stuff, thus ruining the scary elements for us. So this picture, I want to throw in the trash, because it ruined the whole immersion experience for me. He honestly should have never even considered using digital things as an element to his story. He should have stuck to his grounded, real-world scenario of weird things happening to him in his safe space, in my opinion. So yeah, that's what made me realize that this whole story isn't real. After that, I also realized how cliche everything was. But when I thought it was real, I didn't even notice it. Everything happening at the right time, things falling from shelves right as he was able to record it, weird things happening just as he sends a tweet, stuff like that. I think this ARG was one of the best that I've ever seen, if only it wasn't for that one mistake. It was so well written, and I think Adam Ellis is a really good writer after this. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you were able to get something out of it in case you're writing a horror story or something. Before this video ends though, I'd like to invite you all to join my Discord. It's been kinda dead, so I was hoping to revive it. And I always respond, so y'all can talk to me there. I hope y'all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Most people grew up with a happy little show called Pingu. Pingu was a show that had a clay penguin named Pingu, and it showed his adventures with him, his mother, and his friends. The character spoke in some sort of weird penguin language that to this very day, I have absolutely no fucking clue what exactly it was. The original show ran from 1986 to 2000. There was apparently an unreleased episode that was released a year later after the cancellation of the show. Now this is when things start to become interesting. When I was around 5 or 6, I saw the beginning of a Pingu episode entitled Pingu's Punishment. I only saw a little bit of it, but what I remembered was that Pingu was very angry and his mother began smashing plates. I also remember the episode was about Pingu playing outside when he was supposed to be doing chores. My mother came in at the plate smashing scene, shut off the TV, and told me that dinner was ready. I was looking for the episode list on Wikipedia to find that no episode called Pingu's Punishment was ever released. I thought that this was an adventure to myself, and I contacted Trix Film Studio, and the company that made Pingu. I asked them for a complete production guide to Pingu, and they sent it to me via email. I looked at it and compared to the Wikipedia's list, and I noticed something was wrong with the vinyl series. Pingu Helps Grandfather, which was the 23rd episode of Season 4, was missing. At the bottom of the list was an episode entitled Pingu Ending. I asked for a synopsis, but they refused to give me one, stating it was personal information. I then googled Pingu's Ending and Pingu's Punishment, and then I found something. It was on RapidShare. The file's name was Pingu's Punishment Unreleased Last Episode.zip, and I downloaded it. I went to my downloads and found the folder. It contained 2 files. One was a notepad file. It was titled fear.txt, and I opened it, and it read, "This is an unreleased episode of Pingu dated April 11, 2000. This originally planned to end the series, and this was actually aired in some countries. Watch at your own risk." I began to feel a little suspicious, and my heart started pounding, but my curiosity overtook me, and I opened the second file, an AVI file. The first part of it was the same episode I'd saw when I was a kid. However, something felt off. The theme song was distorted, and instead of Pingu's usual newt newt, there was a backwards audio. I recorded it with sound record and played it. You can't understand this. I found that to be relatively silly, and a bit odd, but I decided to just go ahead and continue on with the video. I got to the part where Pingu's mother was smashing plates. Suddenly it cut to black. A blood-curdling scream was heard, and it faded and back into the kitchen. Pingu's mom was sitting on the stool crying. And then she began crying, and as she began crying, it started to sound like laughter after a while. Suddenly, cut to Pinga. Pinga was lying down on the floor, her head ripped off. I paused it there, and I felt relatively sick. But what made me sick more was that it wasn't particularly clay blood. It was more or less food coloring or something that was spurting out of the clay model. I continued it on, and Pingu's mother kept crying. Suddenly, it cut to a black and white video of 2 scientists going into a slaughterhouse. It showed a bunch of cows getting slaughtered. Suddenly it showed a penguin being stunned and then hung upside down. The butcher slit the penguin's throat, and it died of blood loss. I began showing pictures of dead penguins after that. Then come back to Pingu's mother crying, and a trampoline was in the kitchen, and there was also a fan. She jumped up under the fan, and blood splattered everywhere. The body of Pingu's mother fell down, and it showed the pictures of the dead bodies of Pingu, Robbie, and the other characters. An old music box was playing Hush Little Baby. I paused to go to the bathroom to vomit. I felt really nauseous and sick after witnessing what I had just watched, and I continued on with the video. A distorted voice said something backwards, so I recorded it and played it in reverse. It said, "Your life will be pitch black in a few seconds. You must be smart enough to play this backwards, because you're stupid enough to believe me." My chest pounded. The credits were all in Times New Roman, and the background continued to show the disturbing images. It closed with a background with a mask with red eyes. The mask suddenly said in a distorted tone, "Your darkness begins now." And then my computer froze, and the lights flickered and the entire power went out. The power came back on after a few seconds later, and I was shaking and wanted to find the source of this film. I got in contact with Carlo Bonmi, the voice of all the characters. I pretended it was an interview, and I talked about Pingu. I finally mentioned Pingu's punishment, and he stopped, and asked me where I had heard that before. I explained the entire thing to him, and he told me this story. During the 4th season of Pingu, there was a writer/animator named Ted Goldman. Ted was a quiet man who usually wasn't that sociable. Sometimes during the middle of a season, Ted's mother had been trying to reach something from the upper shelf. The ceiling fan was still on, and she wound up getting decapitated for some odd reason. Ted was immediately hurt by this, and he began submitting morbid ideas, such as Pingu killing all the other characters. He even asked Bunumi to do a voice of Pingu dying. Goldman had found out that Pingu was closing production at the end of the season. Ted passed off the episode as a series finale. Right after they had watched the episode, they discovered Ted was being charged with animal cruelty, bestiality, and murder. Ted left an apparent suicide note, claiming he was going to live in Antarctica. However, no records claim that he was ever there, and he was last spotted in Santa Barbara, California, purchasing a gun. However, after that, we were never able to find him. I was left shocked. Then a thought occurred to me to play the entire episode backwards, starting from the part where the disturbing voice began. I heard a scream and a shout in a very eerie voice that said something that to this very day still haunts me. The only way out of this hell is suicide.
No.
cartoon show. When I was 5 or 6, I was completely obsessed with the children's TV show Sesame Street. Any merchandise they had, I had it. This was back in the 90s, so VHS tapes were still really big. And this is where my story starts. As I said, I loved Sesame Street, so my parents got me whatever had to do with the show. I was relatively spoiled, being an only child and all. One day, my mom came in with this big blue tote bag full of Sesame Street VHS tapes, and I was so elated as soon as I put the box in my room. After a little bit, I automatically started shoving them in my VHS player that was in front of my TV. This was when televisions had that big box in the back of the VHS player that was built into them, where you could record an empty VHS. Anyway, I watched episode after episode, laughing at Grover's hijinks as he played his alter ego, Super Grover. It was by supper time that my mom called me downstairs to eat, that she asked me, "So, do you like your Sesame Street stuff?" "Yeah, they're great, thanks, Mom," I replied, smiling with every single word. After supper, I ran back upstairs, and I had realized that I only had 3 more episodes to go, so I grabbed the next one. But something about it was off. The sides were rough, and it was scraped. The title card wasn't even the show's insignia. It was written in black Sharpie marker with the title saying, "Sesame Street Unaired Episode." Well, my little heart jumped with joy, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was going to be the first to see an episode no one else had seen. I felt like I was special, that I had found my gold. Boy, was I wrong. I took out the last VHS tape out of the TV and put the other one in and started to play. The Sunny Days intro started coming up, but it was slowing to a growl, and I noticed that none of the normal characters were present, but the kids were, however. However, the children's faces were distorted and twisted. I shook it off as nothing because sometimes VHS tapes would glitch because of dust or a wrinkle in the episodes. Then the title popped up, which I thought was a joke. It said, "Murder at Sesame Street." I kinda chuckled, because I always had a weird sense of humor. Then the episode began to play the first sketch. It started off with Elmo, but something was off. His eyes were straight black, and his red fur had traces of dirt on it, like it was in his house. However, it was very crudely drawn, and the house looked like it was drawn on cardboard rather than the normal 90s revolutionary technology of the green screen. He seemed really agitated, as he usually gets when he's talking to himself, claiming, "Elmo's tired of how other people treat him. Elmo can't handle it anymore. Elmo's sick of Sesame Street." He said this, but he looked directly at the camera, which made me uncomfortable because I noticed that the pupils in his eyes had emerged a bright red. Then he said, "Are you sick of Sesame Street too?" I didn't answer, as I never usually did, and he seemed to get more and more agitated as he said, "Exactly what Elmo means. Nobody listens. Nobody cares what Elmo feels." Then he said the worst line as he slowly looked at the screen. "They're about to." He went into his kitchen and grabbed a knife and held it and looked at the camera, as if looking at me, and started laughing. The next scene cut to Bert and Ernie's house. Their house, just like Elmo's, was run down, and the old-looking Bert was eating porridge as he usually did. He almost looked normal. His skin was bright yellow, more than usual, and then there was a knock at his door. Bert slammed a spoon down and said in a very agitated tone, "Who could that be?" He got up as Ernie walked out of the bathroom. He had bruises all over him, and he asked Bert, "Who's at the door, Bert?" "I thought I told you to stay away from me," Bert said as Ernie ran back into the bathroom. Sobbing could also be heard. Bert looked through at the people and said, "It's Elmo. What does he want?" He opened the door and Elmo walked slowly in with the knife still in hand. Bert asked, "What do you want, Elmo?" very nastily looking at Elmo. What are you doing with that knife?" Elmo started stabbing Bert in the chest. This freaked me out even more than what I had already seen. The The blood looked oddly realistic with each slash. I could see traces of the actor's arm. Ernie looked around and screamed, "What are you doing, Elms?" Elmo looked up at him slowly and looked back down at Bert's now dead body, noticing that Bert's eyes were black and red exactly like Elmo's, and his skin was white as a ghost. Elmo started to slowly walk towards Bert. Bert, clearly terrified, started crying, and Elmo started to stab him too. As before, traces of the actor's arm were visible with gashes in them. Just like Bert, Ernie was dead, with black and red eyes. Elmo then looked to the camera and laughed maniacally, the laugh seeming to go back and forth through the left and right speakers. By now I had goosebumps all over my body, and I began to cry. I was scared, but I was in a trance of sheer terror that my eyes were set on the TV. The screen started to go to static, and the scene changed to the count, but the background was a large monstrosity of a thing, looking at the camera for a few seconds and silent. Then, in a deeper voice, he said, this is lighter fluid, and this monster went up in flames." The scene then cut, and it kept on staying black for at least a minute, and then it went to Elmo, but he was a bald man, and the rest of the Sesame Street gang, they all had red eyes, and they had pointed, jagged teeth. The man was facing the camera, then turned around and said, "Very good, Elmo. You enlightened everyone in Sesame Street." He asked the group, "Who are you?" And they replied in unison, "We are you." They repeated this, and then the man turned and said, "We are all Legion." And they faded, the words still echoing, growing louder and louder and louder. The video then finally ended. That happened some time back, and now that I'm older, I've tried to search for this episode. The only thing that popped up was, well, obviously nothing. I guess you could say that what I saw was pretty fucked up. If I honestly could find where that tape is, maybe I might upload it. Then again, maybe I'd not. Who knows? Does anybody remember the television show on PBS called Caillou? It's a show about a little kid who goes on all sorts of places and deals with real-life situations. And there was an unaired episode that was so fucked up that I had to tell someone about it. Specifically you, watching this video right now. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You got a problem with that? Good. Now sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and keep listening. Now you might be wondering, scratching your ball sack, how do I know of this unaired episode? Well, I used to work at PBS Kids Studios. Of course he did. There was a man who was a lead animator for a Caillou special, which was supposed to revive the struggling franchise in 2008. His name was Daniel. He would work day after day after day after day, morning, noon, night, lunch, dinner, breakfast, in an isolated room, designing a special that would blow our minds and blow our loads, as he said. He indeed blew our minds. Certainly not our loads, though, but not in an amazed way. In a sick, twisted way. One day, he rounded up the cast and crew of the show to watch his final product. He gave us 2 DVDs and then left for unknown reasons. We put the first DVD in to see our guaranteed masterpiece of an episode. If only we knew what would befall. The first DVD started, It had the normal theme song for Caillou, and it brought back memories of past episodes for me. The title card appeared and it said, Family Secrets. The episode began with Caillou in a hospital and his father sitting beside him in a rocking chair. Our first look at Caillou was fucking gross. He was on life support and he looked pale, somewhat in a ghost-like form. He had a bandage on the right side of his face. He was doing a mixing of coughing and crying. He then asked his father a question, even though technically speaking, that's not actually possible. I mean, hell, honestly, seriously, if he's on life support, he really shouldn't be able to be talking. He'd probably be in a coma-like state or something along those lines, but I guess cartoon logic, so yeah, he asked his father a question. Daddy, why did she do that to us? His father answered, I don't know, son, The tape kept looping. I. And then went to a shot in the house and a flashback, I presumed. Caillou's mom was in the kitchen cooking something when her husband walked in with a depressed and somewhat scary look. He had dark rings around his eyes and had no eyebrows. He was sobbing like a bitch. The results came back in from the hospital. Caillou. Hang on. My mascara is running. He has boner cancer. His sobbing increased, but somehow his mother seemed unfazed. Was she in shock? Or was she just some kind of stupid sadist? She walked out of the room and began dusting around the house. She noticed her husband's wallet on the table in the living room. Inside of it, she saw a used condom that had cum drizzling from it. It prompted the man next to me to say, "Oh my gosh, that is hot." Inside the wallet, there was a phone number that belonged to Mr. Martin, Caillou's not preschool teacher. Caillou's mom confronted her husband and slapped him across the face with the condom, which he seemed to love. He then picked it up and threw it at her, but it missed and stuck to the wall. This is when the confrontation started. "What the fuck is this?" Caillou's mom said. "Bitch, I don't know," said his father. "Yes, you do, you man whore. It's not like I get any from you anymore since you had those fucking kids. I told you to take them and eat them. Hell, I probably would have eaten them myself. But honestly, no. You wouldn't let me, you stupid bitch." Caillou's mother began to sob, scream, and have a temper tantrum, and she put her hands over her eyes, and their cat Gilbert fell out. The argument continued. "Oh my gosh, what the hell is that, you crazy slut?" Caillou's father said. "Oh, I am the slut. You are the one sleeping with our son's teacher," his mother said. "Well, excuse me if I think he has ADHD or some shit like that. I don't fucking know. He would never have passed normally, so I became the teacher and taught Mr. Martin reading, writing, and sucking my dick." "Yes, you are the monster. You are worse than Adolf Hitler. Sieg Heil!" "Yeah, and you're a stupid lesbian cunt. Now fucking live with it, bitch." Caillou's father ended the argument with that. We were all in shock by what we just heard. One of the workers even shat their pants. Another one of the men also began to look for Daniel. Caillou's mom lifted her hands from her face, and her eyes were poop brown. She took a knife from the kitchen and stormed past her husband and ran out the door, screaming like a banshee and doing the Gangnam Style all the way through. Down from the stairs came Caillou and Rose-Eye. They said, "Daddy, why are you and Mommy yelling?" He responded by saying, "Because her mother has lost her fucking mind, stupid bitch." The next scene showed his mom bursting open the door to the preschool. Mr. Martin saw her poop eyes and she said, "Oh shit!" Caillou's mom saw the kids around him. She ordered them to line up against the wall, Mr. Martin included. The first one to go was Leo. He was stabbed in the butt and had his poop ripped out. His bottom fell to the back with a pile with poop lines above it. She then went on to stab Clementine, Emma, and Xavier in the ear canal. She then went up to Mr. Martin and cut his head off and ripped her vaginal tubes open, even though technically speaking, Mr. Martin's actually a guy, not really a girl, but honestly, logic has no rhyme or reason, so fuck cartoon logic, and then put his severed head inside of it. We were all horny at this point. The cast left and most of the crew, well, honestly, I'm not going to say what they did, but let me say, it was steamy. And there were only 2 other people, and moi. Caillou's mom went back to the house. Caillou and his dad were in the basement, but Rosie wasn't there. She went into her room to meditate and think upon the meaning of life and sleep. Caillou's mother went upstairs and saw her daughter sleeping. She then put an eggplant over her head and suffocated her. Rosie was dead. Which was not really much of a big surprise. I mean, seriously, you sit there and put an eggplant over somebody's mouth, of course they're gonna die! And then cut to an intermission that had all the puppets from the original seasons. But what we saw them do was so freaking Drew Pickles swell. Rexy the blue dinosaur was having butt sex with Teddy for 5 whole minutes until Dee Dee the squirrel came up with a chainsaw. The screen faded to black with screams and moans of terror and joy and sounds of a chainsaw. And then went back to the show. Caillou's mom had slaughtered his grandparents and was wearing the face of Caillou's grandma as a mask. I almost shit myself, but I eventually chose to shit myself anyway. Feels good too. The cops abruptly showed up and tried to put Caillou's mom in a straitjacket because she's fucking nuts, but she stabbed an officer in the face and began to eat him out. Another officer took a double-barrel shotgun and blew the top of her boobs off. It then cut to a picture of Caillou's mom's boobs blown off, and the bottom half of her boobs remained there, milk flapping and squirting out of her boobs, and her nipples could be seen in all of the mess. And then cut to a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second, with words on the screen. We rewound the DVD and paused it. It said, "I'm coming, you crazy witch." And then was back at the hospital. Caillou was having swell surgery to remove the tumor from his pangus. They had to take his right eye out, and then the tumor couldn't be taken out properly. The medical equipment was also dirty, pretty much because of the fact that it was covered in shit, so the pangus was infected. Then cut back to the original scene, and Caillou's dad was saying, I, 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 I came. His eye was deformed and grotesque beyond belief. He rushed towards Caillou, but the medical staff came in and punched him in his dick. He was near a window. I can't take it anymore. My family killed my spirit, and now I'm gonna die with it like the edgelord I am. He then jumped out of the window and took a massive diarrhea dump, then fell to his death. Caillou then took his last breath, did the Macarena, and then passed away and went straight to hell. The DVD exploded. We took the burnt DVD and the unwatched one, which said Family Secrets Super XXX Pornography Commentary on it, and threw them both in the toilet. We later found out that Daniel had eaten his wife, but it was never found because honestly the police don't really seem to get anything in these stupid creepypastas. Let me clarify that the DVDs have not been flushed down the toilet, and they're still out there somewhere, most likely in the same toilet, probably covered in shit and piss. If you happen to see the DVD with Family Secrets or Family Secrets Super Secret XXX Pornography on it, watch them. You better watch them. For the love of spaghetti monsters. Watch them. They're super duper swexy swell. Sesame Street was one of my favorite cartoons to watch when I was a child. Kermit the Frog was the best character out of all of them, with his little news segments and the fairy tale characters. I was saddened when it ended, and even more upset when they actually removed Kermit from the show. The movies still contain him, but it still wasn't as fun to see him anymore. As I grew up, I forgot somewhat about Kermit, but I never really forgotten about him too much. One day in 2012, I was talking to my buddy Pat, and he told me that he had an ancient tape of Sesame Street entitled A Day in Kermit Land, featuring Kermit the Frog in an unaired episode. However, he never told me where or how he produced the tape. I didn't think much of it at the time, and how it was rather suspicious. Pat gave it to me for around $50. I dug into my attic and unearthed the VCR set. Once I connected it to the TV, I opened up the tape box and found it was a blank cassette and black Sharpie marker writing out Kermit's Tortureland tape. I figured it was a typo by a stupid troll and attempt to ruin a childhood tape, and pressed play once it was in the VCR. The Sesame Street logo played as normal, but I had a feeling of dread. The colors were a bit hyper and pale at the same time, and the audio was a bit grainy. I brushed it off when I saw the episode was in the 60s, and I presumed that it was due to the age of the tape, but I was still suspicious as to how it was in such mint condition. Then suddenly, the tape seized and went into a black screen with different audio than before, like the tune and circus music combined into one track. There were colorful words, but it was in Arial lettering and was too large for the screen. Kermit in Kermitland. Then it transitioned to the next scene, with somewhat poor quality. Kermit was in the back room with clown posters and a few lights on by himself, looking a bit somber. He was in his news apparel, and then he looked at the screen. "Oh, hi there! Kermit the Frog here, and today we're in a special place dedicated to me, Kermit's Land Park." I smiled as the similarity came back to me. It must have been a typo in the tape by a troll. Did they have any different voice actors? I could have sworn Kermit's voice wasn't as high-pitched as before. Another Muppet, Elmo, soon came under the screen, but another wave of suspicion soon came to me. Elmo hadn't been created yet, and he also looked somewhat unhappy. I decided to turn it off after realizing that I had better things to do, but the button was stuck and I couldn't eject the tape. I've read stories like these before, when I realized that I had made a mistake in buying that stupid tape from Pat. The cartoon continued on. They were talking about the development of the park and how great Kermit was to Sesame Street as a news reporter. The film continued to degrade bit by bit, and the two Muppets started to look at me with smiles. Now they were in Kermitland. "Wow, this is the place, huh? It looked different from what I had expected, Elmo, buddy." That's how it is for everybody. Elmo worked really hard to make people happy. It was still getting creepy, and at that moment I realized that I was late for work, and I still couldn't eject the tape. Now I was starting to get afraid. "You don't want this fun to end now, do you, Elmo buddy?" "No, never. What about you, kiddies?" All at once there was a sine wave with the screen building up in black flash. I closed my eyes tight from fear and heard a grotesque scream from the TV, but did not dare open my eyes. I wasn't going to be traumatized anytime soon. I kept my eyes closed and walked out of my house by memory until I was outside and heard the whine wave no more. Once I made it to my job, I explained away my absence as to oversleeping and checked my email. I received a new message and found it was from an unknown email. The subject was Kermitland 2. I wasn't ready to see what was beyond that either and prepared to delete it, but an error message came up said that it couldn't be deleted, nor could I exit out of my email. I called for my coworker, who also couldn't fathom what was going on. Suddenly, the mouse began moving on its own and selected the file to download. I couldn't turn the damn thing off. My coworker left me to get to the boss to see if the computer had a virus or something like that. The file proceeded to play, and I heard a sine wave resume from the first part. And then I saw Kermit and Big Bird in the land. I could barely make out what they were saying. Such a shame Elmo couldn't see it finished. "Sure it is, Kermit." Had Elmo died, or was he sick? This just seemed a bit too morbid. But that's because he was in the way, just like you. Suddenly there was more screaming. I closed my eyes again and covered my ears. My coworker was in the room again because I had heard his shoes. My eyes were forced open, and I saw a realistic version of Big Bird on fire. The puppet body was charging, and there were also the strings. His eyes were swollen and teary as he looked up in sorrow and pleading. All the while he screamed. The strings broke away and sizzled as the person controlling the puppet also began to burn horribly. Cut! This wasn't... Get some water! I was in utter shock. I don't really know what to say, or really how to begin this update. My main reason for this is because not much has really changed since my last update on the show. However, we did have a few good strokes of luck pass by our way. Guys, I have some great news. We did it. We finally managed to get a voice actor for Tyrone. I'll admit, it wasn't very easy at first to find him, but we did. So yeah, Tyrone isn't leaving the series after all, which is great on our part because honestly, how can you have the Backyardigans if you don't have one of the main characters? Now, I know a lot of you guys are most likely confused as to why I'm updating this particular episode of the show, that being A Nightmare on Backyard Street, rather than the episode before it, Rainy Days. Well, to be honest, the writers of the show were really having issues trying to come up with a decent plot for the episode itself. I'm not joking around with you guys when I tell you that working on that episode was like trying to make beets taste good. It didn't work, and the end results were messy as hell. Writers were fighting over what kind of jokes and concepts were going to be put in the episode. Many people who made suggestions for the episode itself just made it, in their words, not mine, a whole lot shittier. So in the end, the episode itself was scrapped entirely, and production and writing for the next episode was started on immediately, which meant 2 scrapped episodes in total. That certainly was not going to look good for the higher-ups at Nickelodeon. Thankfully, we didn't get any threats from the higher-ups or anything, but I can certainly see problems in the near future if any more episodes are dropped from the series. So, that was pretty much the reason why I hadn't updated the progress of the show in about a month or so. There just wasn't really anything to provide, episode-wise that is. Luckily though, we didn't dilly-daddle with the episode. In less than a matter of a couple of weeks, everything was completed and ready for syndication. Now, before I get into the episode itself, you're all probably wondering how and why we managed to get these episodes done at such a fast pace. Well, actually, we just have a lot of help. Mostly from interns, but still. The other way that we managed to make these episodes as quickly as we can is simply by making them as early as possible. Even before the actual episode is done, we're already working on the newer episodes. With, of course, the exception of Rainy Days. I honestly hope that explains everything to you guys. Anyway, once production was over, I was given the flash drive with the episode on it, and once my shift was over, I went home, grabbed my computer, and of course slipped the USB drive into it. The episode started up like normal, which is kind of obvious by now, I guess. And once it had finally ended, the title card came up. The title card showed a rather eerie picture of all the characters in a boiler room of some sort, running away from a disembodied glove with jagged blades in the tips of each gloved finger. Connected to said glove was a huge, dark mass that really didn't have much of a form to it. At least not one that I could make out, that is. The music playing in the background of the title card was much higher in a mixed up pitch of the Nightmare on Elm Street theme music. Obviously made in our different ways so in order to avoid copyright issues. Which honestly, even though it was parodied, it still was a rather nice touch. After a few seconds, the title card melted. Yes, it melted. Slowly down the screen with a soft maniacal laugh playing after the title card melted completely, with the title of the episode flashing with white lettering saying, A Nightmare on Backyard Street. The first act of the episode started with the view of the now familiar backyard with all the houses of the Backyardigans in full view. The setting was that of the night sky, with the usual cricket noises and a few hoos from an owl in the background. There were no lights on in any of the houses, only the moon providing any kind of light for the area. The camera then panned over towards Uniqua's house, with the camera slowly going up until it reached the top bedroom window of what I assumed was Uniqua's bedroom. The scene then cut to the inside of Uniqua's room with the sound of tossing and turning being heard, only for the camera to pan towards the bed with the groaning and tossing sound growing louder and louder. The scene then zoomed into Uniqua's face, which looked like she was suffering through a rather horrible nightmare. A flash of white appeared on the screen for about a second or two, until it cleared out to show Uniqua walking in the backyard at night in her pajamas. What am I doing out here? I'm supposed to be in bed, aren't I? Uniqua asked herself as she looked around the backyard with a hint of confusion in her voice. Seriously, I don't remember getting up at all. And even if I did get up, I most certainly wouldn't be outside this time or night. Uniqua continued to walk around the backyard, suffering through a rather horrible nightmare. Back to her house and a flash of white appeared on the screen for about a second or two. Well, I'll admit, the walk was nice enough, but I need to get back to bed before my parents freak out and start going crazy. Uniqua giggled before opening the door. Once she opened the door, the scene panned to reveal that there was nothing behind the door except pitch blackness. Uniqua looked at the darkness in front of her, scratched her head, and then closed the door slowly. Okay, I know for an absolute fact that my bedroom door doesn't lead to an eternal pit of darkness. We even have a butterfly nightlight next to the back door, so it shouldn't have been dark at all, Uniqua said, her body shaking slightly. Maybe I should just go through the front door. Maybe that might help. Uniqua then made her way off the back porch and then started making her way towards the front door of her house, trying to be as careful as possible as to not try and bump into anything. Then she made it to the front door of her home and tried attempting to open it up, only to find out that it was locked. Great. Now how am I going to get inside? Uniqua said as she slapped her arms down to her side in frustration. Then a small light bulb appeared above Uniqua, which then sputtered and shattered not long after it had popped up. Ah, that's right! I forgot about the key under the mat. She then bent down towards the welcome mat that was beneath her feet, and lo and behold, the key was right there. She picked it up, placed the key into the lock, and then unlocked the door. Oh, sweet, now I can finally go back to bed, Uniqua said with a yawn. Once she had opened the door, the inside of the house looked very different from what a normal living room should have looked like. The camera quickly panned into the interior of the home, the entire living room looking like the inside of a boiler room, with pipes jutting out random blast of steam, and a small furnace in the middle of everything spitting out fire like a flamethrower. Uniqua immediately slammed the door shut and said in a calm voice, "There is no way in heck I'm going in there."
Oh, aren't you sure about that?
A ghostly whisper emanated from my headphones that caused me to jump slightly. Who said that? Uniqua yelled out as she turned around, trying to find the source of the voice.
Over here,
the voice called out again. The camera then showed a dense forested area surrounding the house. Okay, I don't remember there being a forest this close to my house, Uniqua said, shocked. And why is someone calling me over there? Where? What's going on?
The forest.
If you honestly think that I'm going into a forest with you, you've got another thing coming, Uniqua said flatly. No sound. I guess it takes care of that, Uniqua said triumphantly for some reason, when all of a sudden, a large blue and yellow striped arm with a brown glove and protruding blades came out of the tips of the fingers, grabbed a hold of the pink polka-dotted ladybug, and dragged her into the house. Hey! Uniqua yelled out as the hand dragged her from the boiler room living room up the stairs and into her room. Once Uniqua had made it into her room, the hand that was holding her dropped to their bed and quickly retreated out of the bedroom door, shutting it in the process. Uniqua, about as confused as anything else, said, "What just happened? Am I dreaming or something?"
You bet you are, you little bug!
The camera zoomed out to reveal the same arm from before. It grabbed Uniqua by the collar of her shirt and slammed her, quite violently I might add, on her ceiling, pinning her down. Uniqua had a look of pure horror engraved on her face as the arm started wrapping itself around her neck slowly. Then, the rest of the monster attached to the arm slowly made its way towards Uniqua, and just as the thing was about to face her, Uniqua screamed. When she did this, the screen melted quickly, and then transitioned to Uniqua falling from the ceiling and down on her bed in a slow-motion sequence. The sound of Uniqua's scream must have been pretty loud, since both of her parents came running into her room. Uniqua, are you okay, sweetie? Uniqua's mother said, panicked. Uniqua didn't say anything, but instead she looked around her room and breathed a sigh of relief. Whew, I'm okay, Mom. Just had a really bad nightmare, Uniqua responded back. Are you sure, honey? Your arm is bleeding, her father said. The scene cut to Uniqua lifting up her arm, only to show 3 long cuts running along it and ending at a small tear in her short-sleeved pajama top. Small amounts of CGI blood dripped down her arm. Come on, sweetie, let's get that patched up, Uniqua's father said as he went to go and pick her up. The rest of the scene was just Uniqua's wound getting patched up by her father, which I thought was a little bit unnecessary, as it made the scene a lot longer than what it should have been. Anyway, after that, the scene faded to show the bus stop with Pablo, Tasha, Tyrone, and Austin all in their school uniforms, waiting for the bus. Well, at least it's the last day of school, Pablo said excitedly. You bet. Now I can finally finish up on that new robot I've been working on, Austin responded back. You're still working on that robot Roscoe toy? I thought you were done with that thing weeks ago, Tasha said. Not really. I wanted to add some newer features to it so that it could respond properly to whoever talked to it. Oh. Well, okay. That's pretty interesting. So, have any of you guys seen Uniqua? She's gonna miss the bus, Tasha said. I haven't, Tyrone chimed in. Neither have I. Honestly, I wonder if she's sick or something, Austin said. Hey guys, there she is, Pablo exclaimed. The scene then cut to show Uniqua walking towards the group. Hey Uniqua, how's everything going? Pablo said. I'm doing okay, Uniqua said. Austin then walked up to Uniqua and gave her a big hug. Good morning, Uniqua. Hey Austin, Uniqua responded flatly. After the hug, Uniqua went over to the main bus stop area and sat down in the long metal seats inside the stop. The other student quickly followed suit and sat down beside her. Everyone, with the exception of Uniqua, that is, all looked a little concerned. Hey, Uniqua, you don't look so good, Pablo said. I know, Uniqua said flatly. Didn't get that much sleep last night, did ya? Tyrone interjected. No, not really, Uniqua answered with the same flat tone. Have you been playing that video game again? I told you that it's... Tasha was going to continue on saying what she was saying, but was soon interrupted when Uniqua gave a flat no to her question. Well, don't worry, Uniqua. You can sleep on my shoulder on the bus if you... Austin was going to continue his sentence, but then his eyes widened. The camera then showed the bandages around Uniqua's arm. Uniqua, what happened to you? Why is your arm bandaged up? Austin said, concerned. I had a really bad nightmare, Uniqua responded back. It must have been really bad, honestly, if your arm's all cut up like that, Pablo said, looking at the bandages. Do you want to talk about it? Austin asked softly. Later, at lunch, Uniqua said once more. After the conversation, the bus pulled up from the right side of the screen, and everyone went on. The scene then cut to the inside of the school with Pablo sitting in a classroom, attempting to try and keep himself awake with the boring lesson that was being taught by a teacher of his. However, after about a few seconds, Pablo's head fell to the desk with a small thud before he was immediately woken up from the force of his head hitting the desk. He then lifted his head up with his arm and yawned. Then a soft voice called out once more. Over here! Pablo immediately lifted his head up to where the voice was coming from, and with that, the screen cut to the door of the classroom. The door was open, and in the doorway, there was Pablo's teddy. It was just sitting there, not moving. The screen then cut back to Pablo, who had a very confused look on his face. "Teddy?" Pablo began. "What are you doing here? I thought I left you at home." "Come here. Come play," the soft voice returned. Then the teddy bear began to slowly walk away, which caused Pablo to start running after it. Now, at this point in time, I was really amazed at how well they were doing this parody. It was dark, a little creepy, and interesting at that. What I honestly thought was odd, though, was the fact that Pablo had left the classroom without anybody noticing. He kept on going towards the hallway, trying to catch up with a stuffed bear. That is, until the bear went into a small room and disappeared into thin air. Pablo continued to look around for the bear, only to find no trace of it. "Oh man, am I losing my mind or something?" Pablo said as he leaned up against the wall, right next to the water fountains.
"You bet. You shiny little blue head, you little freak."
Pablo immediately turned around to face who, or what in this case, had spoken to him in that tone of voice. And there, about what seemed like a few feet away from him, was the same unknown shadowy figure that had attacked Uniqua earlier. The camera panned over towards the figure, which already had started to extend its blue and yellow arms, the right hand of said arm waving its knife-tipped glove around. It then cut to Pablo, whose pupils had shrunken down to the size of pen dots, who quickly began running down the hall towards the classroom. As he does this, the camera pans back over towards the monster, whose arms are still stretched out to try and catch Pablo, the lights going out one by one as the hands got closer and closer. Then, in a split-second effort to try and ditch the monster, he came up with a small plan. "I can't believe I'm doing this," Pablo sighed. With one swift motion, Pablo started sliding on his belly like a, well, penguin, which was actually kind of funny in the light of this entire dark sequence. And this actually seemed to help Pablo out a lot, as he was able to get himself away from the psycho hands. However, once he got to his classroom, he quickly grabbed his teddy bear from the door that was, oddly enough, right next to the entrance, and slammed the door shut. Pablo then let out a sigh of relief as he walked back to his desk. "Oh wow, Teddy, that was some spooky stuff out there," Pablo said. "You bet it was, Pablo," Teddy said. Pablo then looked back down at his teddy bear, horrified. The camera then cut to the teddy bear and Pablo's flippers. Its head was a dark, looming shadow, and the small, brown, fluffy arms had been replaced with the same yellow and blue striped arms that had been trying to get to Pablo earlier on in the hallway. The scene then showed Pablo, with one of the arms latching itself onto him and shoving him into the back wall of the classroom, pinning him there. He soon started struggling as the other arm, the gloved one, made its way closer to Pablo's face.
"Lights out, freak!"
The voice yelled, before slashing Pablo across the face with the sharp knives. Pablo screamed, and then fell to the floor with his flippers covering his face. "Pablo, oh my goodness, are you alright?" the teacher cried out as she made her way over towards Pablo. The scene then cut back to Pablo, who had now started lifting his face up. And oh my gosh, was his face messed up. When he looked up at the screen, there was a pair of 5 claw marks going down from the right side of his forehead all the way down to his chin. There was also small trickles of cartoony blood going down his face, and his left eye was half open, with the eye itself looking damaged, and the actual eye itself looking purple, with a hint of red as well mixed in. The camera cut back to the teacher, who immediately had a few students of hers take Pablo to the nurse's office. The scene then faded for a bit, until the next scene of everyone eating at the cafeteria was shown in a bird's eye view. The scene then faded once more to show all the backyardigans, minus Pablo that is, all sitting down at the table eating lunch together. "So, Uniqua," Austin began. "Yeah, Austin?" Uniqua responded back. "You said you were going to explain how you got that wound on your arm. How did you get it?" Uniqua took another sip of her milk jug, and then began explaining about her dream, what she had saw, and the monster who had attacked her. When she had finished, the others looked at her with a bit of shock on their faces as well. and then they all proceeded to tell their own version of their stories with the same exact monster in their dreams. As they were talking amongst one another, Pablo came by from off screen and sat down next to his friends with an eye patch and multiple bandages all over his face. "Pablo, what happened to you?" Tyrone said, shocked. Pablo didn't answer the question. He just sat there, shaking slightly. "Pablo, are you all right?" Tasha asked. Pablo immediately turned his head, and the scars on his face were much more visible than last time. Well, at least the blood had been cleaned up, but the scars were... they were still pretty nasty. I was attacked," Pablo stuttered. "Attacked by what? That monster?" Uniqua asked. Pablo's eyes, well, his good eye, that is, immediately went wide as he looked dead-eyed at Uniqua. "Yeah, that was it. How did you... I had the same experience you had last night. The monster attacked me in my dreams and left me with this nasty scar on my arm." The camera then panned over towards Uniqua's arm as she pulled her polka-dotted sleeve up to reveal the bandages around it. "You guys, I don't know what's going on, but whatever is happening, we need to stop whatever is doing this," Tasha said. How in the world are we going to fight this guy? It's not like we can all go sleep over at one of our houses, access the same dream as each other by some chance, and then get rid of this guy, right?" There was silence for about a few seconds, before everybody began eating their lunch once again. "So, my house at 5? Austin said. "Yup," everyone responded. The scene then transitioned to a film burning effect, which went from the school to the backyardigans' house at night. Then it cut to the inside of Austin's room, with all the other backyardigans getting ready for bed. "You guys ready for this?" Austin asked. "No, not really. But what choice do we have?" Pablo answered. "Alright, you guys," Austin began. "Let's do this." With that,
In the beginning of the story, you might actually root for Johnny Allen Richards and Erin Brooke Lawson. They're the couple who were having sex a little too loud. That's according to their neighbors. Now, I would normally say, let them go, let them go. But apparently they'd been causing a lot of disturbances, and you'll see that that is not uncommon for them in a second. So one time a neighbor goes by and knocks on the door and says, come on, guys. And they were also fighting. Just keep it down a little bit. And so what happens next? Well, Richards and Lawson knocked on their next door neighbor's door. When he opened it, Lawson hit him with a rake, breaking it off its handle, police said. She then used the broken handle to stab him in the arm. Okay. So they went house on the guy. And then the male here, Johnny Allen Richards, also grabbed a 2x2 stick and started beating him with it. So obviously they get arrested. You see their mugshots there. Erin Lawson there has the bump on her head because she passed out while being booked and hit her head on the table. Now normally I might be a little skeptical of that story, but in this case, when you see their rap sheet, you might not be surprised at their level of lack of cooperation with the police and lack of cooperation with their neighbors and everyone else in civilized society. This is amazing. According to the New York Daily News, since 2001, Richards has been arrested 45 times for charges including burglary, theft, and assault, while Lawson has been arrested 31 times for charges including drug trafficking, stalking, and theft. Now look, I don't know for a fact what would have happened to them if they were black, but it is amazing that these guys can get arrested 45 times, 31 times, and then beat the living crap out of a neighbor and then get arrested again. and then the cops, you know, they're right here. Look, I don't want the cops to do anything wrong with them, and there's no charges of that here. They're not charging it. Nobody is. Okay. You just keep on arresting them, putting them back on the street. Arrest them, put them back on the street. This justice system will crush you, spit you out on a regular basis. But somehow, these people are still around, out there, allowed to terrorize their neighbors. What in the world? Okay, it's a small case, and you can't judge for a fact how it would have turned out in any other circumstance. So I know that. But it's just an interesting little story about what some people can get away in this country and where it seems that others might not be able to get away with it. Remember, Eric Garner was choked to death for selling untaxed loose cigarettes. These guys out in the street.
Conrad Hilton was on a flight, a British Airways flight, from London to Los Angeles. And during that 11-hour flight, he was unruly to say the least. Apparently, he threatened a flight attendant and told him multiple times that he was going to kill him. He referred to individuals on the plane as peasants. And even though he got arrested later, his sentence is insulting to everyone who believes in justice. Now, apparently, according to reports, he ranted that passengers wanted to fuck or fight him because they were staring at him when he was acting like a crazy person, accused flight attendants of taking the peasants' side, and attempted to punch one male crew member, missing him by about 10 centimeters. So GQ did a really great investigative piece on this, and they went into great detail about what he did. They talked to some of the passengers that were on the flight. And there were people on the flight that were rattled by his behavior. They were scared. He was uncontrollable. At one point, he went into the bathroom and just started smoking pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So let's break this down. So he's Paris Hilton's brother. He's the great grandson of the original Conrad Hilton, who built the Hilton Hotel Fortune as a hotelier. Okay. And so he has a ton of money. And because the estate taxes are low in America, you get to keep passing that money down to your royal heirs. Okay, and this is what that leads to. So now, any other person taking a swing at a crew member, are you kidding me? Smoking anything inside the bathroom, let alone an illegal substance. Shouldn't be illegal, but it is, right? Doubly illegal, smoking it inside the airplane. And then he extended an invitation to the pilots to fight him, saying that he's going to fight the pilots.
Yep.
Now imagine a black guy does that. A poor person does that. A middle class, somebody in coach does that, right? A Muslim does that. A Muslim says, I'm going to fight the pilot. Go smoke something inside the bathroom and you can't get him out. He goes around telling the passengers that he wants to fight him. He takes a swing at a crew. Oh my God, the world would come down on that guy. So obviously Conrad Hilton's going to be in prison for decades, right?
He is not going to serve any time in prison.
Oh,
in fact,
wow, I didn't see that.
So before the law came after him in any way, he basically said, I could get you all fired in 5 minutes. I know your boss. My father will pay this out. He has done it before. Dad paid $300,000 last time. So, rich guy, right? He can get away with anything. And he did in this case. Conrad Hilton has been sentenced to 3 years probation and ordered to undertake 750 hours of community service after pleading guilty to disrupting a flight last July. Now, this was a plea deal. And this is a perfect example of the two-tier justice system. If you have the resources necessary to hire the best lawyer, you are likely to get a plea deal like this. But most people don't have those resources. So most people would actually get sentenced to close to who knows how many years. Do you know that you could serve a 20-year prison sentence for this? 20-year prison sentence.
Of course you can. Look, they would have diverted the flight. They would have. A Muslim gets up and says, I'm gonna take down the pilot. And then takes a swing at the.
Anastasia.
Crew. Oh, of course they're going to divert the flight. Of course they're going to land it as soon as possible. Of course they're going to put them in jail. Of course they're going to take enormous action against them, right? But again, forget the Muslim part. A middle-class American does it. He's not going to get away with it. She's not going to get away with it. He says, oh, Papa will get me out of this. And God damn it turns out he's right. Yeah. Papa did get him out of it.
That's exactly right.
Right, and he called the people peasants there.
It's so sick.
This is how they view us, man. This is how they view us. And then they say, we're doing class warfare on them. I mean, he's literally trying to fight the peasants and says he can get away with anything.
Yep.
We're the ones doing class warfare?
So just to give you a story to compare and contrast, you know, how there is a two-tier justice system and how people react differently based on socioeconomic status. There was a story involving a woman on a United flight. She had an autistic daughter who was very difficult to deal with, okay? And so apparently her daughter was hungry and she was kind of throwing a temper tantrum. And so the mother talked to the flight attendant and said, hey, do you think you can get my daughter warm food? She won't eat it if it's cold. She won't eat it if it's hot. I need it to be a certain temperature. And the flight attendant refused. And at that point, the mother got really frustrated and said, all right, well, if you refuse it, just know that she's going to throw a temper tantrum and she's going to be really difficult. At that point, the flight attendant, you know, said, fine, I'll give you the food, gave her the food, but the flight got diverted. They landed, and the woman was met with authorities after that, okay? So there's a huge difference in the way you and I would be treated versus the way someone like Conrad Hilton is treated. It's disgusting.
But you know what? The Republicans are right. We should cut his taxes. The poor kid. You know, he gets a rough break. The problem is all the blacks in this country have all the advantages, right?
Yeah.
Poor people in this country have all the advantages. All the people getting the entitlements, the welfare, the unemployment checks, they have all the advantages. The teachers caused a banking crisis, right? It's not the rich. Poor Conrad Hilton and his dear old papa who keeps getting him out of trouble. I mean, they deserve more tax cuts. They deserve everything they get. We're the ones with the sense of entitlement.
As the drought continues in California, lawmakers in the state are thinking of different restrictions and even rationing water to save as much water as possible. Well, wealthy people in wealthy areas of California believe that they're entitled to more water than anyone else because they can pay for it. One of those individuals is Steve Uhas. He is a conservative talk show host who gave the Washington Post some of the most unbelievable quotes I have read in print journalism. Let me give you an example. He said the following: people should not be forced to live on property with brown lawns, golf on brown courses, or apologize for wanting their gardens to be beautiful. We pay significant property taxes based on where we live. And no, we're not all equal when it comes to water. I mean, the entire quote is unbearable, but that last part is what drives me crazy. Water is supposed to be a public resource. It's not supposed to be something that is reserved for the wealthy while the poor, you know, don't get anything, right? Or they get fined excessively as a result of it. But one thing that I also want to point out, you live in California, homeboy, which means you pay about 1% of the value of your home. So no, you don't pay significant property taxes compared to other people living in other states. You actually pay very low property taxes. So get your head out of your ass and check your facts, conservative talk show host.
Yeah, that's part of what destroyed the California education system is that the conservatives gutted the property tax in California. And it's arguable, it's not clear in this case, whether climate change has at least contributed to the drought in California. So, yeah, you're right that we're not all equal in what has led to the creation of the drought. But I'd look in the mirror if you're looking for who's at fault there. But the idea that the rich people are more entitled to water than poor people, I mean, that really gets at the core of entitlement. It really does.
It's so sick. And look, anytime we talk about so-called entitlement benefits in the U.S., right, conservatives will be the first to come out and say, oh, these poor people, they feel so entitled. But these are individuals who paid into a system and they're expecting to get those benefits back. They paid into a system to get those benefits back. True entitlement is this bullshit that he's spouting right now, and it drives me absolutely insane. And the thing is, water is something that is necessary to live, right? So if we're having a conversation about water to drink in order to survive, that's one thing. But this guy's talking about watering his lawn and making sure that he can still play golf.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about unequal, Rancho Santa Fe uses 5 times more water per capita than the statewide average. They use 5 times the amount of water that everybody else in California uses. Why? Because of all the golf and country clubs that they have. Okay.
It's amazing.
So, and then he goes and says, "How dare you try to take away from the water in our country clubs at all? Even though we're overusing the water 5 times more than anywhere else or the average of California." And then when Governor Jerry Brown called for a 25% reduction in water use, he's like, "We all got to chip in, make sure we have enough water in California." In Rancho Santa Fe, their water use went up by 9%.
So there's some indication that they did that on purpose, that they started using more water because California is planning on rationing water in certain areas. Rancho Santa Fe is one of those areas. And so they want to up their limit by artificially inflating the amount of water that they use. It's sick. This entire story is sick. So there are going to be new rules, okay? And according to the Washington Post, under the new rules, each household will be assigned an essential allotment for basic indoor needs. Any additional usage, including sprinklers, fountains, swimming pools, must be slashed by nearly half for the district to meet state-mandated targets. Now, residents who exceed the amount of water that they use could see their already sky-high water bills triple. And for ultra-wealthy customers undeterred by financial penalties, the district actually reserves the right to install flow restrictors that'll basically limit the flow of water to things like, you know, sprinklers and things like that.
Well, at the very least, if they are giving you a financial disincentive and you're comfortable with that disincentive and you say, "Look, I have more money, so I'm going to pay 3 times as much because I got to have my lawn watered." Okay, well then that's the bullet you got to bite, because we got an issue with water. We got to preserve it. So he shouldn't complain about that at all. If your money buys you anything, it buys you the ability to pay more in an emergency like this to be able to take more of the water. But we might even reach the limit of that, because we might start to run out of essential water for the state for all of us to live, survive, to the bare minimum, bathe, etc., right?
We're having a conversation about lawns right now and golf courses. People might not have water to consume, water to bathe in. We're having a conversation about this. It's unbelievable.
He wants to reserve the right to pay the same amount, but use 5 times as much water, because the wealthy deserve more water.
They're more important than us, right?
They're more equal than we are.
It's ridiculous. All right, let me give you some more unbearable comments from these people. This is from Gay Butler, okay? He is an interior designer who's also upset at some of these restrictions that are being proposed. He says, "It angers me."
He's a Republican?
Yeah, I know. "It angers me because people aren't looking at the overall picture. What are we supposed to do? Just have dirt around our house on 4 acres?
I do declare, I mean, what are we to do with our 4 acres of property? Are we supposed to have dirt around it?"
That's not a made-up comment or statement. He gave that statement to the Washington Post. There's more.
And his name is not made up either. He's an interior designer named Gay Butler.
Okay. There's more. This
Either I mean, what are we to do with our 4 acres of property? Are we supposed to have dirt around it?
That's not a made-up comment or statement. He gave that statement to the Washington Post. There's more.
And his name is not made up either. He's an interior designer named Gay Butler.
Okay. There's more. This individual, Brett Barber, says, "I call it war on suburbia." That's exactly what's happening, war on suburbia.
But it's not like we made up the water crisis. Jerry Brown's like, "I will launch a war in suburbia and grass." Okay, I will pretend there's no water. No, but we have a drought. We're not lying, right? But these people are adverse to facts and science anyway. So how do you talk to them in a language they can understand?
Let's hear a little more from Brett. He says, "California used to be the land of opportunity and freedom. It's slowly becoming the land of one group telling everyone else how they think everybody should live their lives." And then Steve Uhas, the first person that we referenced, says,
I'm a conservative, so this is strange, but I defend Barbara Streisand's right to have a green lawn. When we bought, we didn't plan on getting a place that looks like we're living in an African savanna. I just
can't.
I just can't.
It's since they are used to telling people how to live, right? This is what you do with your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the Bible you have to listen to. These are my rules, and I'm going to impose them upon you, right? This is my social order, my moral order. It doesn't matter if we agree upon it, I'm going to impose it on you. They project that onto us.
Mm-hmm.
They think that we have a desire to control them, and that we're inventing this drought to be able to control how they live their lives because we hate their grass.
Yep.
No, I like Barbara Streisand's grass. I'm sure that I'd like your golf course, right? But we have a drought. It is real. We need water, okay? And these guys are used to having everything their way so much that they find the idea that they would be equal to others in anything unbearable. And then they'll turn around and say, I'm from America, because everybody here is equal.
It's ridiculous. It's just the sense of entitlement. And more than the sense of entitlement, it's just this complete mistreatment of people who aren't in the same socioeconomic level as them, right? If you're not as rich as they are, then you're not a person. You're not worth it. You're not worth the water necessary to survive. It's just such a sick way of thinking about things. They lack empathy. They lack any type of humane treatment of their fellow peers, you know? Because they don't see them as fellow peers. They just see money signs and people who are in their level of wealth and people who aren't. That's it.
There's been a lot of back and forth, both in Washington actually and in Hollywood, about how PC is too PC. I think that this has been a long-standing debate, but it's recently kind of reemerged with comments by comedians and journalists and pundits alike. So let's go ahead and start with this clip from Jerry Seinfeld.
Does the climate worry you now? I've talked to Chris Rock and Larry the Cable Guy. They don't even want to do college campuses anymore.
I hear that all the time. I don't play colleges, but I hear a lot of people tell me don't go near colleges. They're so PC. Here, I'll give you an example. My daughter's 14. My wife says to her, well, you know, in the next couple of years, I think maybe you're going to want to hang around the city more on the weekends so you can see boys. You know what my daughter says? She says, that's sexist.
Isn't that, you know, it's amazing.
That, they just want to use these words. That's racist. That's sexist. That's prejudice. They don't even know what they're talking about.
So I wonder there if Seinfeld's biggest mistake was accidentally calling his wife his mother.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
That had to hurt when he got home.
Yeah, women love to hear that.
All right, curious, what do you guys think?
I think he's right. I think that at least that, well, first of all, it's great that calling out his own daughter for saying something dumb.
Why is that great?
Because it makes it honest.
I guess that's true.
And I admire that. And it is, and that example that he, of course, used is true. You know, this is not an argument that lends itself to extremes, like, oh, the country is too PC, or the country is too easily offended. I mean, there are many, many examples that we can come up with that where, of course, people are too easily offended, and of course, the people need to be able to take a joke, or at least be able to say, hey, man, I don't think that's funny, without sort of having the person who said it backtrack and have to explain, no, I'm not a racist, I don't hate these people, I'm just, you know, that it's okay to not laugh, but not ruin someone's career over it. But on the flip side is, obviously, you know, we can't allow the level of discourse and how we treat people who are powerless in this country to be defined by people at Fox News.
Well, I also think that, yes, we need to make a distinction between who is the one doing the telling, the saying, and what is the context of that. So here we're talking about Jerry Seinfeld. He's talking about the rights of comedians to use sometimes off-color comedy to make certain, you know, points to have this social commentary, and sometimes just to be fucking funny. You know, regardless of whether or not he's making some sort of deep social commentary. The interesting thing here is that we have Whoopi Goldberg, who's come out in kind of opposition to these remarks by Seinfeld. She said, quote, listen, comics are always offensive. That's our job. We offend everybody. But at the same time,
She said, gay people may not want to be referenced that way, referring to, you know, comedians using kind of LGBT, maybe not hate speech, but anti-LGBT language. I think they have the right to say that, and I think we've got to find other ways to be funny if that's what it is. If you feel like it's too hard to be funny without perhaps offending somebody, maybe you should find different stuff. I mean, I think that that's both a good and a bad point, you know? I think that within the comedy arena, maybe we should lighten up a little bit. This is a concern that I've heard from comics going back decades. You know, I need to be able to speak my mind. And sometimes there's almost this intrinsic way that people react that's a little bit more carnal and a little bit more raw that comedy taps into. That maybe you don't want to hear that kind of language in a university classroom. You don't want to hear that kind of language on Capitol Hill. You don't want to hear that kind of language, you know, on Fox News or CNN. But when you pay to go to a comedy show, I think there's a different kind of an expectation. At the same time, it is a bit of an elevated or a progressive view that, like, guys, if you have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to make people laugh, maybe you need to come up with a funnier way to be funny.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, so I have strong opinions on both sides of this issue. On the one hand, I know, right? On the one hand, I totally agree with Seinfeld that hey, they're comics, but give them a break. Give them a break. And is it PC police, whatever you want to call them, on some college campuses? Come on, man, you know there are. You know there are, right? And so, and it's not a new phenomenon. They were there when I was in college. That's part of the reason I was a Republican when I was in college. They wouldn't let, I told the story many times. I got booed off a stage in a discussion of free speech. They wouldn't let me speak because they didn't agree with what I had to say. And then there was, you know, the charge. Everything was sexism. Everything was, you know, homophobia, whatever. Okay, although now that's even larger.
Again, if you get offended at a comedy show, well, then don't laugh.
And don't see that comedian again. Don't
see
buy
that
a
comedian.
ticket.
Tell your friends, I didn't find him funny. He said some things I found offensive. Then deal with the fact that you're a person who found comedy offensive, and I suspect you might lose some friends. But that's a choice that you can make.
But we've all been there. Have you ever gone to a comedy show where it was just so blatant that you were like,
No,
it's not even funny?
Yes,
I've definitely
not funny.
been there.
I've never been offended. I'm never going to get offended by a comedian until the day I die. First of all, so Seinfeld's joke that she played specifically about he makes a joke about that I think he was on the phone and that he was either he or the other person in the joke, I can't remember, is acting like a gay French king. You know, and that conjures up, I think what Jerry Seinfeld would say is that conjures up a very specific image that he wanted to convey. It's not an unfunny image. It's really not an image that we know. It's an image that we know from movies and television, the way that's portrayed. I think it is a worthy debate to figure out a way that maybe, given how the last 5 years have gone and given the circumstances that gay people find themselves in, that maybe, again, that still contains a little bit of the old school pejorative, ugh, so gay. It's enough to say, hey, maybe there's another way to do that. Maybe you're Jerry Seinfeld, you're one of the 5 greatest comedians to ever set foot on earth. Maybe you can come up with another way to deliver that line, and it's okay if people are bothered by that. And as Jimmy Dore would always say if he were here, the object of the joke, the focus of the joke can't be the powerless. It can never be the powerless. That's never, ever funny. That's not the focus of Seinfeld's joke. And let me just conclude because
the guy's a king.
The guy's right, exactly. But like, you know, Patton Oswalt, who was in a war with on Twitter with women who maintained that some of his comedy and other people's comedy was offensive to women. They had a significant back and forth and reached a handshake agreement because Patton Oswalt is incredibly funny and incredibly smart and thoughtful. And he basically, I saw him, I think on, I don't remember where I saw him on, but basically and maybe I read it. And you read his stuff, his 53 tweets defending Trevor Noah were brilliant. And the stuff that he's written about his rapprochement in his fight here was great too. He's a really good writer. He says, look, like 85% of the PC stuff is good. It's made us aware, it's made us better, it's made us stronger, more. And then 15% of it is so nuts that it causes these conversations. And I think he's basically right, that's right around where we are.
Which I think most people would agree that we need to lighten up when we're watching a comedy show. Now, the difference here is, do we need to lighten up when we are talking about politicians, for example, or news reporters? And so I've got 3 clips here from Don Lemon. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Political correctness has become dangerous. We have to stop looking for reasons to be offended. We have to allow people leeway to make mistakes in conversations without calling them racists, bigots, stupid, dumb, sellout, or whatever your word choice may be, on and on. Not everyone is going to, or should they, have to agree with you. In fact, it's better when people don't agree with you. That's how we learn.
And that's the real question here, isn't it? Are we talking about, are people too politically correct? Are we talking about, are people always going to try and find the easiest way to throw somebody under the bus when they disagree with them because people are so uncomfortable not being right? That's a different issue altogether, but I think that they're really inextricably linked.
I think that Don Lemon's point is undeniably 100% correct, except given the context of everything else he said, I know this is not what he means. Like, I don't think he's correct because of what he ends up saying next. Like,
a stopwatch is right twice a day.
yeah,
All right.
I mean, you have to be. I like Don Lemon, but I think he. Like,
you do?
I like him personally.
Oh, okay.
I don't know him well, but I know him a little. This of course, yes. No one wants to live in a world where if somebody disagrees with me, I get to call them a racist or dumb or a fool. Of course not. And yes, we learn from thoughtful conversations. The question is, what happens when it's not thoughtful? And what happens when we know it's hateful, right? And when we know it's hateful, guess what? The same free speech argument that they're about to use lets us go, that is bigoted and hateful. And so, yeah, do some people misuse it? No question. But given what Don Lemon is about to say, I don't think he gets it.
Yeah, I got no interest in Don Lemon. But let's watch his last thing, and I'll tell you why I disagree with him so much.
After almost 25 years in the news business, you know who is the most easily offended and the least tolerant? Liberals and progressives. Because many of them don't really want to hear anyone else's opinions but their own.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Okay.
I also think those are two different things, to say the most easily offended and the least tolerant. I would agree that liberals are more easily offended.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even agree with that.
I would definitely agree
with
that.
Here, okay.
But I would not agree that they are the less tolerant.
Yeah,
sure.
Don Lemon's a fool. Okay, so this is ironic because now he's like, oh, buddy, I told you not to call me an idiot. Okay, so first of all, on the issue of being offended, are you kidding me? You look at a Christian the wrong way. They're like, oh my God, war on Christmas, because you said happy holidays. We were easily offended?
See, I don't think
I said happy holidays.
I think you're
because people celebrate different holidays. Oh, we're on Christmas.
You're equating
wait a minute.
Christian America with Fox News, and I think that that's not right. Fox News does not represent Christian America.
No, I'm talking about the right wing.
Yeah, and
Look,
that's a very small percentage.
Wait. Are we talking about liberals as like the PC liberals on college campuses are a large percentage? They're a much smaller percentage. They're an infinitesimally small percentage. The Christian right that loves the Bill O'Reillys of the world, they're the most easily offended people in the world. Oh my God, what are you doing, Jesus? And it's not just Christians, it's also fundamentalist Muslims too. Oh my God, you want to talk about offended? Yeah. And don't forget, those fundamentalist Muslims are right-wing, okay? They're the most right-wing people on the planet. Like, oh my God, you Muhammad. Right? These are not liberals. These are all conservatives, right? And they love to be victims. They love it, right? So don't talk to me about how you liberals get too offended. No, they love getting offended. Our way of life. Hey, listen, prick. When somebody comes into your establishment, you give them service. You made me bake a gay cake. I'm going to get the gay juice. No, fuck off. You're not tolerant. You love to get offended. Now, on the issue of
their argument, though, I don't think that they're actually crying about it. They're full of hate. Their argument is that it offends them.
So, but don't tell me liberals get offended too much when they get offended much worse. But you want to call that a tie? I can live with it. I can. If you say the extreme on the right,
the religious fundamentalists,
the religious fundamentalists,
the and the lefty
and the PC police on like at Wesley. Are both get easily offended? Okay, by the way, that's like 7 people. This is like, what, 30 million, 60 million people in the country? So let's keep it real on that count.
And one has political power and one has none.
That's exactly right. Okay, now on the issue of tolerant or intolerant, no, but this is where Don Lemon is so goddamn wrong, right? No, one side says, hey, look, what if you say that gay people shouldn't have the same rights as straight people, that's not right. PC police.
The other side says, let's not give people the same rights, because I don't think gay people should be allowed to marry. I don't think they're the same as straight people.
Right. Respect what I have to say, or you're not tolerant.
Right.
Yeah.
These are the same sons of bitches who told us you have to respect my right that black people should drink from a separate water fountain. Now you tell me black and white people are the same? No, you have to be tolerant of my bigotry.
Hey, Don Lemon would just apparently say, we just disagree.
What Don Lemon
Maybe you
here
could learn something.
What Don Lemon here is he's redefining the word tolerant to fit the framework of his argument, because obviously that is not what tolerance is.
What I fear from the thing that Don Lemon represents here is a desire in the mainstream media to once again be like, don't call us liberal. Look at this. Look at this. They're the least. If they're least tolerant, they're incredibly easily.
Well, and not just that. The further argument would be, don't call me stupid. Because I think that's an argument Don Lemon has had to make quite a few times. I think the reason that I've been a little bit maybe devil's advocate-y, because I'm obviously like a flaming liberal over here, I'm really progressive, is that in my career as a science communicator, one thing that I've learned, I'm an overt atheist. I've never tried to hide it. I am very, very atheistic, very blasphemous. And in my career as a science communicator, one thing that I've learned moving forward is that the worst way to try and improve science literacy and to try to help people understand the scientific method is to call religious people stupid. The worst way to get this message across is to kind of pound the pavement and make fun of people for their beliefs. So in essence, I'm learning the kind of lessons of these comedians, which is if you want to reach more people, you should be as inclusive as possible. So I guess when I get a little bit defensive of this liberal view, I think that it's just a little more sophisticated than this argument makes it out to be. It's a little more nuanced than that.
So my nuance on this is let's all think this through together, okay? So if you go to Don Lemon's extreme and you say liberals are the least tolerant overall in the whole country, right? Liberals are the ones that most easily offended. I totally disagree with you. If you say, hey, some on college campuses are too PC and are even riding the comedians whose job is to rile us up and make us laugh and make us think and do it in ways that are offensive. You can't, if you make comedy so, you clean it up so much, there's nothing left and there's no comedy.
Jon Stewart's last few weeks as host of The Daily Show have just gotten a little bit more exciting due to something that was revealed on this week's edition of the What the Fuck with Marc Maron podcast. So Wyatt Cenac, who you probably remember as a former correspondent, but was also a writer for The Daily Show just a few years ago, was recounting a story of an altercation that he had with Jon Stewart over his criticism of one of the voices that Jon Stewart was using on the program. And so the voice had to do, let's see, it was with Herman Cain. And why don't we show you the original clip of Herman Cain speaking, and then we're going to have Jon Stewart for you right after.
Don't try to pass a 2,700-page bill. And even they didn't read it? You and I didn't have time to read it. We're too busy trying to live. Send our kids to school. But that's why I'm going to only allow small bills. 3 pages. You have time to read that one over the dinner table.
So that's Herman Cain reminding me that as crazy as the Republican field seemed in 2012, 2016 puts them to shame, I think.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think
you don't think
crazy.
Trump.
Conservative actor James Wood is suing a Twitter user for $10 million, citing defamation as the reason for this lawsuit. Now, the person who tweeted to him alleged that James Wood has a cocaine addiction. Of course, he does not have a cocaine addiction.
No, not at all.
No, I've never snorted cocaine in my life.
Never.
So, as a result, he's saying, look, this is defamation, I have to sue. Let me give you some more details. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the actor went to the Los Angeles Superior Court and sued the anonymous individual who is tweeting as Abe List, which has now been deleted, by the way, for defamation over a derogatory tweet that suggested Woods was a cocaine addict. A message that Woods complains was sent to thousands of AL's followers and hundreds of thousands of Mr. Woods followers. Okay, I don't think he really realizes how Twitter works. It's not going to go to his hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers. But anyway.
Like if they were looking specifically, they researched his handle,
yeah.
Then they would see it in all the people who included his handle.
That's not really how most people do Twitter.
Exactly. So AL's reckless, and this is according to what they wrote in the lawsuit, okay? I think it's hilarious. AL's reckless and malicious behavior through the worldwide reach of the internet has now jeopardized Wood's good name. I didn't even know who the fuck this dude was before. I don't know.
Really? That's funny.
And reputation on an international scale. International scale. AL and anyone else using social media to propagate lies and do harm should take note. They are not impervious to the law.
This guy's cluelessness is phenomenal, right?
Yes.
He's like, oh, I have been, if somebody said something bad about me online, and literally thousands of people have heard it. Yeah, dude, welcome to the internet. Okay. Oh, wow, somebody said you did coke. You should see what they say about me.
No, it gets, Jake, it gets better, though.
If I sued everybody who said something derogatory about me, I'd never leave the court.
I can't believe that that's the first guy he wants to sue. He's not suing his dermatologist?
I'm not with him. James, I'm not with him. That is horrible and unacceptable, Jimmy.
I mean, it's
Don't
just,
sue me, James.
It gets
Talk about
pettier,
random, and suing. He's upset randomly about stuff.
Okay, it gets pettier, though, okay? And it makes him seem more like a clown when he points to specific words that offended him. So in the past, AL has referred to Woods with such derogatory terms such as prick, joke, ridiculous, scum, and my personal favorite, clown boy.
Is AL Donald Trump?
Clown boy?
Hey, clown boy. You dummy loser. You joke. You're ridiculous.
That clown boy is the most underutilized insult of all time.
That's a pretty good insult.
I like it. It's really good.
Dude, how do you sue somebody saying, I am not a clown boy? He called me a clown boy online. I got deeply offended and I sued him because I am not a clown boy.
I don't even have a red nose.
I have never squirted water out of my lapel. Not once.
So defamation lawsuits have very, very high standards. First of all, you have to prove malice, and that's almost impossible to do. And also,
you have to prove damages.
You have to prove damages as well. So malice and damages. So $10 million in damages, really? Come on. But who cares about the amount that he's suing for? The fact that he's suing to begin with is ridiculous, especially considering his past tweets. So I'm going to give you some examples. Now that this lawsuit has been made public, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, this Woods guy is a huge asshole. In fact, he's tweeted pretty terrible things to people in the past. Let me give you examples. So Radley Balco says, James Woods once suggested to his 200,000 followers that I enjoy eating penises, and then he linked the tweet. Where do I file my lawsuit?
Ah, nice.
Okay, here's another one.
Oh, glass house motherfucker.
There's
Hey, Jimmy, I see a croissant. Oh, that looks great, Carl.
For thousands of years, humans have misunderstood them and feared them. Now, one bee in a turtleneck sweater is gonna change everything.
Stand back. These are winter boots.
Why does his life have any less value than yours?
This fall, I gotta say something.
Hello, Jazz.
You're talking to humans. You're flying outside the hive.
Barry B. Benson
So you see soda spilled on a sidewalk and you don't drink it?
is a little bee
He's not bothering anybody. Get out of here, you creep.
discovering a big secret.
How did this get here?
It's just honey, Barry.
This is stealing!
Cute bee. Golden Blossom. Ray Liotta Private Select.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
You have a plan?
Yes, Plan B.
He's brave.
Where'd you get the honey? It's ours now.
He's bold.
This can't possibly work. Okay, Barry, pull the chute.
He's reaching new heights.
What happened?
I just tried to talk to these guys. Hi. Then there was a dustbuster, a toupee, a life raft exploded. Now one's bald, one's in a boat, and they're both unconscious.
Jerry
Today I feel like doing some dancing.
That's funny. Even a barnacle knows you need music to dance. That is the stupidest dance move I've ever seen.
It's you on the planet.
You're just being shy. Don't worry, buddy. You're doing fine. I won't let you blow this.
That Just X juicer is only $29.99. Order yours now.
Victory screech!
Where's the leak, ma'am? Here's your present! You.
Rev up those fryers, cause I am sure hungry for one. Help! Help! My leg! Rev up those fryers, cause I am sure hungry for one. Help! Help! My leg! Help! My leg! My leg!
alphabet, Julie?
Yes, I could.
Let's hear you sing the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Cookie Monster.
You're not singing the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R,
Cookie
S.
Monster.
Can you sing the alphabet, Julie?
Yes, I could.
Let's hear you sing the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Cookie Monster.
You're not singing the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R,
Cookie
S.
Monster.
Started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight and my mom got scared and said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air."
Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We ready or not, get high. You don't want no problem with me. You do.
Work.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Scarce here.
Ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. You just can't get into it because they would.
First, don't fuck your bitch in the clique you claim. West side when we.
Now, Mr. Green Fuck, let Elmo help.
I don't need your help. You see.
I'm a Nazi because I'm really passionate about feminism.
We're like desperate to get pussy.
Listen, X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' Lamborghini, Lamborghini. Bitch, I know you see me in my Lamborghini, Lamborghini.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to the lean the family. Credit cards in the scammers.
Like white folks, but I don't like you. All the niggas in the hood wanna fight you. Surprise El Chapo ain't Donald Trump. Yeah, fuck Donald Trump. Yeah, I like white.
This is the song, la 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 la, Elmo song. La 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 la.
Rich. All I ever wanted was some motherfucking guala money.
Dude, it's just Elmo. It's just calm down.
Guess who's behind the blanket?
I'm a goofy goober. You're a goofy. 'Cause I'm broken when I'm alone.
D-E-F-G. How's your favorite song go?
Something like this. Using crack and cocaine to get high.
I like to say the word.
Don't be cursing like that.
I can say that. I wonder.
No, you can't. Don't.
Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crack it? Why me roll?
And we do this every night. Hey, I ain't check the price.
Goodbye, Gary. I am going to boarding school now. I will see you later tonight.
Meow.
Hello, SpongeBob.
Oh, hello, Patrick.
Do you want to go jellyfishing with me?
Sorry, I can't. I have boating school today.
Oh, okay. I will go with you then.
Yay. And here we are.
Wow.
I know, right? Here's the fountain of learning. And these are the lockers of learning.
And these are the stairs of learning, right?
No. These are the stairs of learning.
Oh, okay.
And here's the classroom. Now we just wait for class to start.
Three hours later.
Hello class, my name is Mrs. Puff. And the only reason I say that is because we have a new student. Young man, why don't you introduce yourself? Come on now, tell the class your name.
24.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's start class.
Hey Patrick, want to know something funnier than 24?
What?
This. Everybody stay right where you are. If you move, I will kill you. Alright, here's what's going to happen. Mrs. Puff, you're going to give me my license and all the good noodles chummers. Then all of you are going to pretend none of this ever happened. And then I'm going to leave.
Hello everybody, it is me, Santiago.
Goodbye, Gary. I am going to boating school now. I will see you later tonight.
Meow. Yeah, can I get a Krabby Patty, please? Hello. I don't have time for this, I'm eating somewhere else.
Okay, the first...
Mr. Squidward, you're driving away all me customers. Anyway, today is Employee Brotherhood Day. SpongeBob, where is your gift?
Right here, Mr. Krabs.
I hate it.
And where is your gift, Mr. Squidward?
I didn't get one.
Mr. Squidward, you will get SpongeBob a gift or you're fired. Now get back to work.
Plankton.
What?
I need you to make me an exploding pie to kill SpongeBob.
Alright, Squidward, I will make you your pie, if you give me the Krabby Patty secret formula.
Didn't you already steal the formula?
Yeah, well, it turns out that was the wrong formula.
Okay, I will get you the formula.
Nice doing business with you, Squidward.
SpongeBob.
Yes, Squidward?
Here is your gift.
Thank you, Squidward.
Do it.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Just do it.
So, do you have the formula?
Yes, I did it. Mr. Krabs, come here.
What is it, boy? Oh.
Look what I made. It's a hot dog made out of Krabby Patties. I call it a crusty dog. Mr. Krabs,
What?
do you like it?
Yes, let's put it on the menu.
Yay.
5 minutes later. One crusty dog, please.
Here you go.
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 Sponge boy me Bob, your crusty dog is the best thing that has happened to the Krusty Krab. I am going to remove the Krabby Patty from the menu and rename the restaurant the Krusty Dog because it's so good. Are you okay, boy? Oh.
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, good. Now get back to work.
Okay.
5 minutes later.
Hey, Squidward.
What?
We need to get rid of the Krusty Dogs. They are ruining the Krusty Krab.
I agree. I'm tired of dancing in this hot dog costume all day, but how are we going to do it?
We are going to start a rumor.
Oh, okay.
Breaking news, crusty dogs are bad for you. I'm being told that crusty dogs cause cancer and they are made from dead fish. So whatever you do, don't eat crusty dogs.
This is it, boyo. This is the end of the Krusty Krab.
I'm sorry.
What?
I started the rumor about the Krusty Dog. The Krusty Dog was ruining the Krusty Krab. I didn't think this would happen. I'm sorry.
You destroyed me, business boyo. Now you must die. Squidward, did you have any part in this?
No.
You have lied to me for the last time, Squidward. Now you must die. Santiago.
Oh look, a package. That is a heavy package. Hello, SpongeBob. It is me. Your cousin Stanley. Oh, hello Stanley. Want to watch some TV? Oh, okay.
I am a tomato. My favorite food is tomatoes. Tomatoes are the best. I eat them every day. I love to hear them scream.
Oh no, I broke the TV.
You stupid sponge. Now you must die. Hello, SpongeBob. Santiago. Yes, I would like to order one cheese pizza. SpongeBob Squidward, deliver this pizza.
But we don't serve pizza.
Yes, we do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Deliver this pizza.
Hey Squidward, watch this.
What? Where are we? SpongeBob, what did you do?
I don't know.
Well, now we're lost.
Wait, Squidward, look. It's a rock. It's a rock. It's a rock. It's a rock.
So what?
We're saved.
How is a rock going to save us? Oh, ow, 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 ooh, ow, 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 ooh, ow, ooh, ow. Oh, ow, 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 ooh, ow, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ow, ow.
Come on, Squidward, this pizza isn't going to deliver itself.
Are those bones on my pizza?
I don't know.
Why are there bones on my pizza?
I don't know.
If you didn't want bones on your pizza, then you should have asked for a boneless pizza. Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. I love my swamp. What?
Get me a princess or I will kill you.
Oh, okay.
And I'm Donkey.
This is my swamp. Later. Princess.
What?
Come down here.
Why?
Because we're tighter than bark on a tree.
Oh, okay.
Now you must marry Farquaad.
Oh, okay.
Later.
Now you will marry me.
Santiago.
Oh no.
Plot twist, I am an ogre too. Now I can marry you.
No, you're ugly. Now you must die.
Oh.
I love my swamp.
I'm gay.
Tonight is the night that SpongeBob and Patrick go camping. Now I will be able to get my beauty sleep. SpongeBob.
What?
Why aren't you camping?
We are camping outside of my house.
Oh, okay.
Have fun inside.
Okay, fine. I will camp with you.
Yay. Let's sing this one.
No.
Nobody cares what you think, Squidward.
Oh, okay.
C-A-M-P-F-I-R-D-S-O-N G Song C-A-M-P.
You call that music?
Yes.
I'll show you real music.
Squidward.
What?
Don't play your clarinet Bentley out here. It could attract a sea bear.
Oh, okay.
Squidward, no. Patrick, quick draw a circle.
Okay, best friend SpongeBob.
I knew it. There is no such thing as a sea bear.
Santiago.
Oh no.
Yes, I did it. I killed SpongeBob.
Oh,
Mrs. Puff always wins. Puff.
Oh,
Yes, I did it. I killed SpongeBob.
oh,
Mrs. Puff always wins.
Okay, the first clue is that it is something to eat. No, it's not a cookie. Okay, the second clue is that it is something round. No, it's not a cookie. Third clue, the color of this thing is orange. No, it is not a cookie! No, it's not a cookie! What? How can you give up? It's something to eat that's round and orange! It's an orange! It's an orange! Of course it's an orange! I just told you it was an orange! No, you don't get a cookie!
Let us play again. Come on. Well, okay. Hot potato, pass it all about. If you're last to hold a hot potato, you are out. Yay, baby, that's it. That's what I was talking about. Boy.
You don't really want that Glock, boy. You don't really want to feel them shots, boy. You a B boy, I'm a black boy, I'm a D boy, I'm a hot boy.
Hi there, I'm Bert.
And I'm Ernie.
And this is our Wired Autocomplete. Wait, are you doing this for me?
Elmo can't read yet, so Elmo has a helper. She's very tall.
If it's autocomplete, can I just not do this?
She's very tall.
If it's autocomplete, can I just not do this?
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's see. How does Sesame Street change the world? Wow.
Well, Sesame Street changes the world by showing people the best in every one of us.
And it's helping us being smarter, stronger, and kinder. Boy, Elmo just thinks that Sesame Street makes people happy and spreads joy.
We're all about kindness. About being kind to everybody. Even this lady who we not see her face.
How does 1 get to Sesame Street? I thought this was going to be a question really for the Count.
Are you coming from the east or from the west? It makes a big difference. Take the R to Steinway, get out, walk down the block, and there you are.
I personally started a new little tunnel area right to my fairy garden.
Street has a way of attracting those kind of people, Bert.
That is a very deep answer. I think people were just wanting to know, like, basic directions.
Uber?
Maybe someone should write a song about it. What's this one? How does the Sesame Street song go?
Oh, okay.
Everybody,
can you tell me how to get
to Sesame Street?
How to get to Sesame Street.
That's how the Sesame Street song goes. It's a beauty. You should download it.
How does Sesame Street get celebrities? How do we get celebrities? Facebook?
I just always thought that they were on Rosita's cell phone.
They just kind of drop out of the sky.
Well, you know what? They're just people in our neighborhood. Yeah. And I also think that Big Bird has all the contacts in his cell phone.
We also have a really good talent booking department.
What is Big Bird name in Spanish? Oh, that's easy. It's Pájaro Grande. What is Big Bird's address on Sesame Street? Oh, I live in my nest near 123 Sesame Street. What's Big Bird's real name? Big Bird or Big Bird? What species is Big Bird? Well, I've been told that I'm a lark. Oscar says that I'm part homing pigeon, but I think I'm a Bigus canarius. Look it up. What is Big Bird's favorite snack? Well, I love birdseed milkshakes. Yeah, Mr. Hooper used to make them for me at Hooper's store, and now Alan makes me birdseed milkshakes. Yummy.
Did Cookie Monster change to Veggie Monster? Me hear this all the time. No! Me Cookie Monster. Once and for all, me Cookie Monster. Me not Brussels sprouts monster. Me not spinach monster. Me Cookie Monster. Can we put end to this vicious rumor? Next question. Sorry, me got a little carried away. Does Cookie Monster eat real cookies? Of course, me Cookie Monster. You think me eat a fake cookie? No, me eat real cookies and me love chocolate chippies. They me favorite. Does Cookie Monster eat vegetables? Me do, but me still Cookie Monster. Me not Veggie Monster. It's that where misconception happened. Me love all kinds of food, but me love cookies. But me eat vegetables. Me healthy monster. Does Cookie Monster have a nose? Me know you no can see it, but me do have nose. It